Welcome to Foul Play, the Foul Play YouTube channel. Today we're doing another rebuttal of Convicting a Murderer, episode number 5. Welcome, everyone. Doc?
Thank you so much there, Jack61. Thank you for that introduction. And again, guys, warm welcome. Thank you for joining us on our podcast and our rebuttal. And all of us here on the Foul Play team welcomes you all. Again, guys, we appreciate your support and all your comments. Thank you so much. And as Jack61 pointed out, today we're going to be continuing our rebuttal series. And we're going to be commencing with episode 5. But before I introduce my panel, just to let you know that today's format is going to be slightly different. As you know, we have been playing little clips. But in today's rebuttal, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be showing you some still images. So what I've done is I've broken up episode 5 into equal parts. I've taken some stills, and hopefully we don't have any copyright strikes on that. There'll be a question, and we'll be discussing that question around the panel. And of course, guys, we also welcome your comments as well. So before I introduce my panel, I'd like to welcome everyone again. My name is Dr. Silkman. I'm from the Foul Play team. So let's quickly introduce our panel members today. First up, we have Jack61. Welcome, sir. Welcome.
Thanks, Doc. Would you like me to explain kind of what happened last week or where we're at with it right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think
I can do it now. Okay. Just so everyone understands, because of what happened last Sunday for us, for most of us, Monday for Australians, but it was episode 174 of the open mic, which was episode number 4, Rebuttal. So there was one clip that was a little. The clip that I created was a little over 3 minutes long, and so I broke it. It wasn't much over 3 minutes, so I broke it. Anyway, the clip that played was 3 minutes and 53 seconds or something like that. 2 minutes and 53 seconds. That was clip number 5 that I played. Number 5. Anyway, went on. Nothing happened until we got to clip number 10. And then all of a sudden, boom, YouTube shut us down until I took it off the screen. I'm not exactly sure how all that stuff works, but no matter what, from that point on, I couldn't play a clip without us getting shut down temporarily on YouTube. So Zoe did. It did come back. We found out later that night it came back as a copyright. It wasn't a strike, just a copyright infraction, whatever. No strike or anything against the channel. But the video got blocked worldwide. Go figure. Just so everyone knows, it's on Facebook. The entire video is on Facebook. Yes. I don't know what the deal is there, but whatever. Anyway, so Zoe did appeal that strike. And they did this. Whoever this company is called SVG. There are a lot of companies out there named SVG. We don't know the specific company, but they came back and said, nope, we're still claiming this little clip as their copyright property, their creation, whatever. So, we can appeal that again. We can dispute it, but there's a process, and if we lose that process, then the Foul Play YouTube channel can't stream anything for 7 days. So, it's, open mic is kind of, I'm kind of biased, I'm the host, so I'm a little biased, so it bothers me, but what I like that we do is just remove that 2 minute and 55 second clip. That way the video can be played on YouTube, and we just move the hell on. That's my vote.
Also, Jack, just one other thing. Also, if we lose the appeal, we are subject to get a strike from YouTube.
Yes, they can strike us. They don't necessarily will do it, but they might, because we argued about it.
Yeah. Yep. I think at the end of the day, we just move on. It is up on Facebook. for anyone who wants to see it. So yeah, I think Jack 61, we just have to move on, I'm afraid.
I agree. I think we just edited the clip and just move the hell on. I think we got out, pretty much everything we needed to get out about episode 4 anyway. So anyway, want to thank everyone for joining us today, and every day, panel members, everyone that contributes and spends their time helping out.
Yep.
Thanks,
awesome.
Doc. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jack 61. Next, we have Just Rhonda. Just Rhonda, welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Silkman. It's great to be here, as always. And, yep, I agree. Move on. We can't let anything stop us. We can't let anything hold us back or get us down, because we know that this kind of attack is coming, or at least I think we should have known. I felt like I expected it to. So, yeah, if we were to slow down or stop in any way, shape, or form, we might end up not, it's just not worth all that. So yeah, I say we just keep on going, and it's okay. Just also too, and I don't know if Jack mentioned this, but once we do edit that, we will lose the chat on the video. However, I usually will highlight the comments as they come in anyway. So most of the comments will be on the screen somehow. So, but thank you. Let's go. I'm ready to go as soon as everybody else says hi. Let's rock and roll.
Beautiful. Next we have Alice. Alice, welcome.
Hi, Doc. Hi, everyone on panel. Hi, everyone in chat. It's great to see you all. Yeah, a bit disappointing about the last video. But what can we do about it, really? I think what Jack's saying about taking that bit out is maybe a good idea, and then just leaving it at that. So yeah, it's a shame that it's even got to that, but yeah, looking forward to what you've got tonight, Doc. So
awesome. Thank you so much, Alice. Next we have Susan, welcome. Great to see you here.
Thank you, Doc. Nice to be here. Welcome to everybody that's in chat and lurking, and I'm ready to go.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Next, we have Katie. Katie, welcome.
Hello, everyone in chat, and I'm ready to go as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Next, we have I Don't Recall. Welcome.
Thank you. Hi, everybody, and welcome to Convicting a Murderer.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And finally, we have Neverly. Neverly, how are you coming along?
Hi, Dr. Silkman. I'm doing great. Hi, everybody on the panel and in the chat. Guess what? I'm ready to go. So let's do it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. Well, look, guys, again, thank you so much and welcome. Thank you, everyone who's joining us on the multiple platforms. We welcome your comments, of course. The only thing we ask is please be civil and respectful, because we have quite a lot to cover. Jack 61, are we able to have a look at the very first slide? Awesome. So guys, again, we're going to be covering Convicting a Murderer, episode 5. So please, as always, if you like what we do, please subscribe to our channel, put your DNA on the thumbs up button, and share our podcast, guys. The more people that can watch our work, discuss it, and share it, that'll be fantastic. And again, guys, we thank you so much for your support. We really do appreciate it. And as we've always said here, the Foul Play team, we do search for the truth, good, bad, or otherwise. And I know that the last 2 rebuttal episodes, they were very, very hard to do, trust me. And I'm sure everyone here on the panel will attest. They were very, very challenging podcasts to do, but we went through it. We got a lot of comments, a lot of very passionate people as well. Again, guys, thank you so much. They were very, very tough going. So, Jack 61, can we have the very first slide? Unless there's are there any comments so far? We're all good?
Yep, just everybody saying hello to everybody. Yeah, we're good.
Awesome.
And remember,
Everybody's ready.
before I pop this first slide up, please remember to, if you have a question, put a Q in front of it. If it's related to directly to this episode, we'll try to get to it right away. If it's something that's not related, Rhonda will flag it. And we'll try to get to it later at the end of the show or at some point.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Again, guys, before we commence our very first slide, just to let you know that these are our own personal opinions and our own personal comments. Of course, you may disagree or you may agree. The important thing is to do your own research. But again, guys, the important thing is not to rely on any type of documentary. The most important thing, guys, is to go to the original source, read the material, and come up with your own conclusions. All right, so guys, let's start. So here's our very, very first slide. And again, what I've done is I've taken screen grabs from a section that went on for a couple of minutes. So in point number 1, slide number 1, this was an encounter between both Rookie and Mr. Kratz, and essentially was a pretty heated discussion. When Rookie interacted with Kratz, things got pretty well heated up. And essentially what the discussion was about, and I'll read out the question before we discuss it as a panel. And the question that I'm asking is, did the investigators and the state demonstrate tunnel vision? And this evoked a very passionate response from both Rookie and Mr. Kratz. But let me define for you so you know what I actually mean by tunnel vision. Tunnel vision can also be known as investigative bias. And by definition, when you have tunnel vision, it's when you focus on a single suspect or theory and you ignore alternative explanations or evidence that points elsewhere. So guys, it's very important that we understand what investigative bias means. Why was this such a heated topic between Rookie and Mr. Kratz? Because unfortunately we know that investigative bias is potentially very, very bad, very, very hurtful. And I've written down a couple of comments on what investigative bias can actually lead to. It can lead to wrongful convictions, it can lead to false confessions, and it could also lead to miscarriages of justice. So again, there was a heated discussion between both Rookie and Mr. Kratz. So my question to the panel and also people in chat is, I'll repeat the question. Did the investigators and the state demonstrate tunnel vision? Of course, we're talking about the investigation of the murder of Teresa Horbach. Jack 61, do you have a comment?
Just a couple, and then I'll let others talk. You know, this clip between Rookie and Ken Kratz, it was really bad in many ways because Rookie, without him like reading the statute, his question was about the coroner, right? Why wasn't the coroner informed? Why wasn't the coroner?
Yeah, there were several things, several aspects.
Yeah, and actually, I'm having kind of a little bit of a conversation with somebody in one of our videos, the YouTube comments about the coroner. The thing is, you need to read the statute. Everyone that just thinks, oh, they didn't, but just because they said it in Convicting a Murderer, or Ken Kratz had a cow, he wigged out. What's the point calling a coroner? You need to read the statute. The coroner doesn't necessarily have to come and perform whatever, but it's their call to make that decision. It's their call. I'm just saying, just read the statute. I'm not saying that Deb Kakach would have taken over. I think she probably would have in that situation. But there are other situations that the coroner or whoever the on-call coroner was at the time probably would have said no, just document everything, and I don't need to be there.
Correct.
And I'll add one more point to what I'm saying here. This was November 8th that he's talking about, the burn pit, right? It happened again. Yep, it happened again the very next day at the Redont Quarry when Lieutenant Kelly Sipple from Queso calls into Captain Rush, says, "Boss, I found 2 5-gallon buckets of human bones out here. I need a lot of help." They didn't even talk about calling a coroner. And you can't tell me the coroner should not have been informed. No one can tell me that. That's their law. That's state law. And they didn't even discuss it. So, hey, look, I'm not implying anything at all. I'm just saying that the way that they operate their training, to me, it just doesn't seem like it's in accordance with state law. And I'm sure they know the law, Doc, and everyone. I'm sure of that. But they didn't. It didn't get discussed. It's like, whatever. I just need some help out here. So what does he get? He gets about 60 state troopers and trooper investigators the following day on the 10th to scour that fucking quarry.
Lots of buckets. Yep.
So
correct.
Anyway.
So do you think tunnel vision was demonstrated?
Oh, absolutely, 100%. No doubt about it.
Okay. Interesting. According to Kratz, because remember we've read the testimonies, he goes, no, tunnel vision wasn't demonstrated. He reckons that funnel vision was demonstrated, not tunnel vision, which is very, very interesting. By the way, guys, this episode is called A Manitowoc's Involvement. So we're really talking about the involvement of the MTSO in the murder investigation of Teresa Horbach. What about you, Just Rhonda? Do you think the investigators in the state demonstrated tunnel vision in their investigation?
I don't like calling it tunnel vision because I feel like they had a intentional goal, I believe, to, here's this murder that or this missing person that's happened, or that's going on, and for fuck's sake, she was last seen at the Avery salvage yard and interacted with Stephen Avery. I'm probably reaching and I don't know, making things up in my mind, but I don't feel like it was tunnel vision as much as it was, this is a goal that they were trying to hit, targeting, and that's just my opinion. So if you're going to hold my feet to the fire and ask me, you have to say yes or no, was it tunnel vision? Then yes, it would have been tunnel vision.
Okay.
But I don't think it was.
You're not wrong, Rhonda.
Yep.
If I may say so.
Yep. So you think it's more like Stephen Avery was targeted deliberately? I think so, and I also want to say that I never once thought that anybody in law enforcement made Teresa disappear and murdered her just to frame Stephen Avery. That has never crossed my mind.
It crossed my mind, but it crossed my mind, but I never believed that.
Yeah, I mean, I read that. I read people, and I've heard people who, on the other side who say, well, you guys are crazy. If you think that law enforcement killed her just so they could get, I'm not speaking for anybody else who believes in Stephen's innocence but myself, but that would never cross my mind. I just believe that, it happened to be that, she showed up there. Stephen was the last person that saw her. And at some point when the investigation really took hold, a few of them made some decisions. And
interesting.
That's just my feeling. Yeah.
Because certainly that clip between Rookie and Kratz was very, very provocative. Kratz, as you can see in the picture, he was very, very fired up and steamed up. And it takes a lot of courage. Trust me, it would not be easy to try and debate Ken Kratz when he's in that frame of mind. And kudos to Rookie for standing up to him and asking Kratz.
That was bad. That was badass, Doc. I'm sorry for interrupting, but Rookie stayed cool and calm and collected, and Kratz just lost his shit. Just lost it, and he looked like a fool. But Kratz is you're right. Kratz is a 25-year veteran prosecutor, so that was great.
Yep. Interesting. Alice, can I have your thoughts, please? Do you think the state and also the investigators demonstrated tunnel vision or targeting towards Stephen Avery?
Both.
Interesting.
I think it was both. Yeah, I think it was both, Doc. The tunnel vision was, it's Stephen. This young lassie's went missing. It's Stephen. The targeting is Stephen Avery in custody yet?
By
in my
Jacobs.
opinion.
Yep.
Why say is Stephen Avery in custody yet when this is a missing person? So to me, that tells me that there's been conversation somewhere by a few, and Stephen's name has came up in that conversation. And then when these transmission calls and things like that are coming over the radio and information is being put out, and then they go, she's missing, or the car's been found, or whatever it was, and they go, is Stephen Avery in custody yet? That's targeting to me. But they also had tunnel vision because, like somebody said in the chat, who was it? I think it was Rumour Has It. No, it was Behind the Magic. And I completely agree with her. They had that much of tunnel vision and targeting on Stephen that they're finding these buckets of bones in a quarry, and they've not even bothered their arses to find out who these bones truly belong to. It was Stephen, no matter what. So in my opinion, it was both, Doc. I agree with what Rhonda says as well, but in my opinion, it was both. They targeted Stephen, but they also had tunnel vision in Stephen, which made them stop looking elsewhere.
Yeah, very interesting. And if I could also just make the quick comment, that's also very reflective of the state's response to Kathleen Zellner, right, guys? The state is now prepared to blame Stephen for everything. Okay, it doesn't really matter if there are bones off the Avery salvage yard. Stephen put them there. It doesn't really matter if Tom Sawinski saw someone pushing the victim's vehicle up Avery Road. How do you know that Stephen didn't, persuade the two individuals to push the RAV up Avery Road? So it seems that the de facto approach is you blame Stephen for everything. You're right. Very, very interesting. Thank you, Alice. What about yourself, Susan? What's your opinion?
Well, I find it interesting that on the 4th, when Remaker and help me, who was the other guy?
Link.
Remaker and Link went and searched Stephen's trailer on the 4th when he allowed them to go in. I mean, yes, she was going there, to meet Stephen, to do a job for him, but that's a big salvage yard. And you would think they would have asked permission to maybe look in Chuck's place, look in all the residences, look through the salvage yard, see if they see anything. But they didn't. They just went to Stephen's house, garage, and left.
Very interesting.
So, I mean, that's in the, in the very beginning. And then, of course, we have, who was it that walked into Kratz's office and said, "You'll never guess"?
That was Wiegert. That was Wiegert,
yeah.
on the night of November the 3rd.
Yes.
And that truly was a remarkable comment in Kratz's book. So
I think they all just immediately, hearing that name, they all just immediately focused on Stephen.
Right. But you make a very interesting and important comment. Stephen Avery was known within the community. Is that correct? He wasn't.
Absolutely.
He wasn't Mr. Anonymous. People knew who he was. And it's very interesting hearing some of the comments from law enforcement officers. Oh, we don't know who Stephen is. We're not associated with him. I find that hard to believe that law enforcement officers, even from another county, wouldn't be cognizant of who Stephen was and what he brought against the state. What do you reckon, Susan?
I have to agree.
believe-
I have to agree with that because of the Avery bill,
Yeah,
you know, and his exoneration. I can't
correct.
believe that anyone in law enforcement in that state was not familiar with his name. Fassbender said, didn't he? I
Yeah,
think it was interviewing Brendan said, we don't know.
yeah,
I never heard Stephen Avery's name before, you know.
yeah. And
Yeah,
some even stated they weren't even aware of the civil suit, which is
yeah.
pretty hard to believe, right? Interesting. All right. Thank you so much, Susan. Katie, what's your opinion? Do you think there was tunnel vision, a targeted approach? Is Katie's microphone muted?
I think
can't
it
tell,
was
Doc.
a targeted approach.
Okay.
I mean, you've got the depositions going on. Stephen is sitting in those depositions. I don't know, who else was sitting and observing the depositions. The civil suit has got to be in the news. I'm not familiar with this case like you guys are, but was the newspaper covering
Yes.
the deposition process and all of this day by day?
A lot of yes, you could tell because both in convicting a murderer and making a murderer, there was always newspaper clippings about the wrongful conviction, the fact that Stephen Avery was suing Kaserik, Vogel, the city of Manitowoc, I believe. So it was definitely in the news. Plus, you had the Innocence Project as well being involved as well in his exoneration. So, and you had the Avery bill as well.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, his name was in the media, in the newspapers all the time. And remember, Jack 61, if you could back me up on this, Peterson sent an email out to all his officers. It was basically, do not talk to the media.
He did.
When Stephen got exonerated, do
That's
not
right.
talk to anyone.
Don't engage him.
Yeah, so it was definitely a non-engagement policy by the MTSO at that very, very early stage. Katie.
And you had the big dogs coming up for depositions, and that was going to be really embarrassing. I mean, just watching Mark Rohr's deposition, he was so freaking uncomfortable. I thought he was going to rip his buttons off of his shirt, stretching his neck out there. But it just, it was just going to get more embarrassing and more embarrassing for law enforcement and more illuminating for the public to see. And then, do we have Stephen Avery in custody? Okay. That tells the whole story.
Yeah. I think it does. Thank you so much, Katie. Next we have, I don't recall. What's your opinions?
I think it's targeted tunnel vision. Like, tunnel vision makes it seem too innocent. And I don't believe it was innocent. Maybe they didn't all, work together to make it happen, but it seemed like several people were kind of, I'll just do this, to help it along. And so that's what I think.
Interesting. Thank you so much. I don't recall. What about yourself, Neverly? What's your feeling? Do you think there was any type of tunnel vision, investigative bias?
Yes, I really do. I think that actually Stephen was targeted because if we go back to the 85 case, if we go back to the depositions, what getting Stephen in prison, what does that, how does that benefit the law enforcement and everybody that was included in the depositions, right? He took care of that problem. Targeting Stephen and making this disappearance of Teresa Halbach work with Stephen alleviated numerous headaches. potentially very, very strong, what's the word I'm looking, consequences, you know,
Yes.
money, reputation, ego, losing of their personal funds at the edge of at the very, very, very like edge of their end of their careers, like a Turek and so forth. So I believe that they worked very hard to make this disappearance at the time and later death of Teresa Halbach. They kind of squeezed the square peg into the round hole. And
Well,
as
yeah.
evidenced by the shoddy investigation, lack of evidence, made up evidence, and so forth. That's my honest opinion.
Very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. Thank you so much, Neverly.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those situations whereby it's so weird, right? And we've discussed that. I'm not going to carry on for a long period of time, but the question is this, right? Would Stephen give up his very, very best chance of seeking justice to what happened to him? And as we've discussed multiple times, being in prison, being wrongfully convicted for the vicious assault on Penny Bernstein, essentially destroyed his life. Whether you want to believe it or not, his relationship with his wife, Laurie, disintegrated. His whole life with his own children basically fell apart, and Stephen fell apart as well. And he kept on saying that he was innocent. People would not believe him. And I don't believe any one of us or anyone in chat, as far as I'm aware, has been in prison or targeted by law enforcement. And I believe that Stephen was wrongfully targeted by Kacerik. And then, of course, you had the district attorney, Vogel, involved as well. And it really was a manipulation of Penny Bernstein, the victim herself. And to me, it's rather disgraceful to believe that in the end, they blamed Penny for picking Stephen. And they're blaming her, but blaming the victim for her selecting Stephen as her attacker. But we all know that's not the case. And that's the whole purpose of the civil depositions that were happening. What is interesting here is that, and the panel has made excellent comments, and I do agree, there's no way that Stephen Avery was an unknown entity in the Manitowoc area, in the Wisconsin area. People knew who he was. People knew about the civil suit, that he was wrongfully in prison for an additional 12 years for something he did not do. He did the right thing, and he took the legal approach, right? And the foul play team have read a lot of the depositions, and I think everyone will agree they were going to have a lot of bite, right? Now, as you know, that Mark Rohrer was very, very uncomfortable, and he goes, I don't recall. I think about 100 or 200 times, guys.
137 times.
Yeah, a huge amount of times, all of a sudden, he could not remember. Now, one has to then factor into the equation. Would Stephen truly murder Teresa Halbach, she did nothing to Stephen? She did nothing to Brendan Dassey. Would Stephen really commit this horrendous, heinous crime, knowing full well that the eyes of not only law enforcement, but people in Wisconsin, people in Manitowoc were looking at Stephen all the time? He was a public figure. Would he really commit this horrendous crime, knowing full well that all the roads were going to lead directly to him?
That's
because
right.
Stephen had left the paper trail, right? It didn't take, and just to prove it, Mark Wiegert on November the 3rd went to the office of Ken Kratz and said, you won't believe where Teresa Halbach had gone to. So therefore, on the very same day that Karen Horbach reported her daughter missing, the word Stephen Avery was on the lips of law enforcement officers already, right? So much for a plan of murdering somebody and trying to get away with it. So it's hard to believe the timing in both ways. And as a result of the subsequent investigation and arrest of Stephen, both Kacerik and Vogel never got to testify in the depositions. And hence, the lawsuit basically evaporated, and Stephen only ended up with 400,000. So all the promised millions disappeared. And not only that, the consequences of this horrendous, heinous act is that Stephen now is in prison for life, and same with his nephew, Brendan Dassey. So one's got to believe, would Stephen really do this? Right on the precipice of him hearing with his own ears the deposition of the very sheriff that targeted him. Alice.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I can't get my head around, Doc, right? Is this guy spent, I mean, we say 18 years, but 6 of those years he got for Sandra Morris, right? But the rest, what was it, 12 years or something? He was wrongfully convicted of the rape of Penny Bernstein. He then gets exonerated after that whole time saying he didn't do it, you know?
Correct.
And then he gets it, and he's got lawyers and everything like that that's telling him, look, you can get compensation. You can go and you can apply for compensation. And at least you're not going to get your life back. You're probably not going to get your kids back because, like you said, Doc, he lost his wife. He lost his kids. He lost his part being there for his mum. He lost his mum and his dad as well, even though they were going up and visiting him and everything like that. He lost family members because of this, you know.
Yes.
He gets out. He gets completely exonerated. He's getting a bill in his name.
Yes.
To stop other people going through what he went through, you know. And then he's being told, look, you're going to come into millions. It's 36 million. Now, we all know for a fact there was no way they were going to give Stephen Avery $36 million. They just weren't, right?
Correct.
But
Correct.
It was a £36 million lawsuit. So he's got all this money coming in, whether it was £1 million or £2 million, he was getting at least £1 million coming his way. He's been out for what, 1.5 years, 2 years, knowing that this money's coming to him, but yet he's going to then go and murder a photographer with no motive, somebody who's not done anything to him, somebody that he doesn't even really know, apart from coming out and taking bloody pictures of motors that he put in an Auto Trader magazine. You know, I just cannot see how he would ruin all that, Doc, and want to go back there. I just cannot see it. And I've tried to look at it other ways, and I can't. I just can't.
Well, we're getting a couple of...
Maybe people don't agree with that, then that's fine. You don't, you don't have to agree. But that is me, and this is what I've seen. We're watching the documentary, we're looking at the documents, we're reading the transcripts, with everything that we have done. Nobody can turn around and tell me what the motive was for Stephen to do this. They say, oh, he was a narcissist, he was this. That's not, and Ken Kratz is a narcissist. Does that make him a fucking murderer? You know what I mean? That nobody can turn around and say, Alice, this right here and these documents and everything like that is what Stephen's motive was. They can't, and they haven't in the 4 years that I've been on it. So as far as I'm concerned, Stephen is innocent and Brendan is damn sure innocent. And I've always said that from the beginning, from the very beginning since I got on this case.
Yeah. Now you want. Thank you, Alice. Now you know why the conversation between Rookie and Ken Kratz was so volatile. Just Rhonda, do you have a comment? I'll get you in a second.
I do. I kind of want to stick with the lawsuit for a second.
Yes.
It's always bothered me that just because Stephen was arrested and put in jail for Teresa missing, that doesn't mean that that lawsuit should have ended. Now, I realize he wasn't going to be able to, necessarily take part in depositions and things like that, but this was two separate things. He was doing a lot. He was suing them for a prior wrongful conviction that had been committed against him. He was in jail currently for something completely different. I'm not saying that I know the law about this by any means, but it seems to me that he should have been allowed to continue with the lawsuit, regardless of his current status of being in jail.
I agree. But the big issue was that he was accused of murdering Teresa Horbach. And plus, remember, when the test came back for the presence of the blood, then they're finding other forensic evidence. It's very, very hard to plead your case without proper legal assistance, right? So in a way, his hand was forced. I'm sure he wasn't happy about getting the $400,000 because that disappeared relatively quickly. But of course, then you have the turn of the tide against Stephen, right? All of a sudden, if you're being associated with the murder, a brutal murder of a 25-year-old woman, you're not going to be looked upon in a very favorable manner. Neverly, do you have a comment?
I was going to actually say that I agree with Rhonda on this one. And interestingly enough, we've heard in MAM that either Stephen Glynn or Walter Kelly, I think that it was Walter Kelly, as a matter of fact, who warned Stephen, and he said, hey, when you actually do something like this, like a drastic measure, you sue the county.
Yes.
They will do anything to stop it. Didn't he say that? They can even pin a murder on you. And I don't know if Stephen didn't take that seriously. I don't know if Stephen couldn't even fathom that it would go that far, that he was kind of naive, because in his defense, he felt he was innocent and wrongfully spent 12 years out of 18, right?
Correct.
And
yes.
everything was like all the stars were aligned and everybody was in his corner. And boom, Teresa disappears and he's the prime suspect.
Yep.
But so, I believe that even though he was warned, that he couldn't fathom that it would go that way and that he wasn't afraid because he's done nothing wrong. He's innocent.
Correct. Yes. But it's very, very interesting how quickly things fell apart and how rapidly the pace progressed against him, right? It was just like a tsunami that had taken over, and I don't think Stephen had any idea what was about to transpire. Jack, do you have a quick comment?
I do. I've actually got a couple, and this is the first one is to add to what Alice was talking about. The Avery bill was coming, and he was due to receive $450,000 out of that, right? That aside, they were days away from getting that signed and all taken care of. But let's think about the Link and Remaker visit on the 4th. And then let's move forward to the following morning. And Remaker is on the phone with Herman. And what does he say? Went out and seen Avery last night with Link, and, he was cordial, blah, blah, blah. Let us walk through. My gut feeling is he's not involved. That was from Remaker. That was at around 5 a.m. on the morning of the 5th. Now, what happened between then and 5.5 hours later, right?
The change in plans. Basically, the change in plans. Correct.
So, I'm loath to call anything any kind of conspiracy, but something happened. It had to have. There is, I mean, in my opinion, there's no way that car sat there on that property for 5 days or whatever the hell,
Correct.
7 days, and no one saw it. No one noticed this relatively new-looking, shiny RAV4 sitting there. I don't give a damn what was on top of it. It would have called attention to it because no other cars did. It would have called attention to that car and be like, why's all that shit sitting on that pretty new car over there? And by the way, hey, Earl or Chuck, how much do you want for that car? No way.
Yep.
Thank you.
Something happened for sure. And remember what Andrew Colburn said one day prior to Link and Remiker going inside Stephen Avery's trailer, that Stephen Avery was very cordial. He spoke with him, and there was no form of aggression. Stephen was very complimentary. Stephen never said, look, get off the property, talk to my attorney. No. In both cases,
he didn't hide under the pile of laundry either.
He didn't hide under the pile of laundry. He was very cordial. And this goes to show a fundamental point, guys. You can't win either way. If Stephen was aggressive, it would have been written down in a report that Stephen was not being very complimentary. Why is he being so aggressive? What's he trying to hide? And then Stephen Avery, in turn, was very cordial. He allowed the officers to come in and do a search. He had no problems at all talking to Colburn. And yet he was regarded as, oh, well, you know, he was very, very cordial. He spoke the most he's ever spoken to me. So they're already in their mind thinking something is not right here. Alice, do you have a comment?
Yeah, you just took the words right out of my mouth, Doc. Stephen wouldn't have been able to win no matter how he reacted. If Colburn went to his door on the 3rd and went, is it all right if I come out? And he went, fuck off, I'm done. I don't want you on my property. Get to fuck. Oh, he's being aggressive. He must have something to hide. Why is he being like that? Because you screwed him over for 12 fucking years. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I'm totally surprised that Stephen's attitude wasn't like that when it came to law enforcement, Doc. When they came to his property, you know what I mean? When all the reporters and that came to his property and asking them about Teresa and everything like that, he could have told them all to fuck off.
But
that he wasn't speaking to them, he wasn't doing nothing, but he didn't. He opened his door, he went, aye, come on in, have a look. It's not like it was a fucking 65-room mansion that he fucking lived in. You know what I mean? It was a trailer.
Yes.
And 2-second search, and that's it, done. You know what I mean? And then every time they went back to his house, he spoke to them, no problem. You know what I mean? And it's just, he was in a catch-22. If he was aggressive and told them to fuck off, why is he being like that? Why is he being like that? You know what I mean? So I completely agree with you on that point, Doc.
Well, Jack 61 raised a very important point, and this is a question I'd like to ask in chat. Now, Colburn spoke to Stephen Avery, and Stephen said, yep, Teresa Hobart came, took pictures and left. Then one day after, Lenk and Remiker went inside Stephen Avery's trailer, searched the trailer, and Remiker made the comment, look, I don't think Stephen Avery is involved. The same day, on November the 4th, we had a flyover, and the plane flew quite low for 18 to 20 minutes over the Avery salvage yard. The Toyota RAV4 was not spotted. So there was really no cause to have any form of suspicion on Stephen. He was complimentary. He allowed the officers in. There was absolutely no evidence at all of anything nefarious. No one had noted any smell or anything foul coming from the burn pit or anything like that at all. I don't believe that's the case. I think there was a potential suspicion still on Stephen, despite all of the negative findings by the law enforcement officers. And as Jack 61 pointed out, on the morning of November the 5th, up comes Pam of God, which we'll discuss in a minute, and all hell breaks loose. Jack 61, did you have a comment, sir?
Final comment before we move on, and this is about Earl and November the 9th. Anybody that doesn't see a problem here, you're not looking at this, at least not the way I look at it. First of all, they go to the house to pick him up to get his buccal swab, palm, and fingerprints. Candy says he's not here. But they go in and search and find him hiding under a pile of old clothes or whatever. Why was he hiding? What had he done? I'm not accusing him of anything because I really don't know. But here's the next step of that problem. They go get the buccal swab done, and everything else. Then he does an interview for hours. At least half of that interview is gone. I can't get it. They redacted it. What the hell did they talk about during that? The rest of tape 2 side A, all of tape 2 side B, and all of tape 3. All that shit's redacted. I can't get a clean copy. What did they talk about? I got a problem.
Interesting. Yeah. So again, guys, in summary, I personally do believe that Stephen Avery was targeted, deliberately targeted. And Jacob's comment was very, very revealing. Now, we played the entire clip of Jacob's call. He knew what he was talking about. He was definitely referring to Stephen Avery, which is remarkable because that is on the morning of November the 5th, right? So very, very interesting.
Yeah. About that call, anyone that wants to understand, they lied in convicting a murderer, or at least misled about that. Do we have a body yet? It's completely misleading what they did. It's two separate things. If Jacobs was listening to his radio, he would have heard that radio chatter about this body-only warrant. That's what they were talking about. And Stephen Avery, they gave the guy's name, and Avery wasn't mentioned at all. So he was either listening to the radio chatter or he wasn't. I think he was, and that's why he should have known they were not talking about Stephen Avery. So it's just bullshit to me what they tried to do.
Because then Jacobs actually spoke with Remica. And I think Alice or someone else made the point. It makes you wonder what they were actually talking behind closed doors, which is actually quite scary. All right, guys, shall we go to our second little slide?
Absolutely.
So that was really, really good. So, guys, I hope you enjoyed the format. So in this slide over here, this was really, really interesting. And we had both Candace, we had both Brenda, and we also had Jim Haggerty. They were all saying exactly the same thing. And that is that Making a Murderer Season 1, they were looking for answers. But there were no answers. We see that in the end, Stephen Avery, Brendan Dassey, they were arrested. They were charged for the murder of Teresa Horbach and sent to prison for life. And Candace, Brenda, Jim, they kept on saying, I was looking for resolution. I was looking for answers. And the comment was, and here's the question I want to ask to the panel and in chat, did Making a Murderer 1, Season 1, deliberately leave you asking more questions? In other words, if you saw just Ma'am 1, were you satisfied? Could you walk away saying, I know everything about the case, right? So was this done deliberately, or was this just the way the case panned out? Jack 61, I'd be interested in your
it hit me hard for more questions. And, of course we were all affected by when we saw what we saw. It really affected me about Brendan. I truly felt that kid got screwed over. I still feel the same way, except even more. I've said it before. It was far worse. What they did to Brendan was far worse than what was ever portrayed in Making a Murderer. And I think everyone will recognize that. Of course, there's still people out there that at this point in time, there's like, yeah, Brendan was involved. He helped and bullshit. Absolutely, in my mind, it's my opinion only, bullcrap. So yeah, it left me with more questions. I mean, like I've said before, I went immediately to Reddit, to the MAM sub. I did join a little bit later, maybe a week or so later. There was a family group that had got started on Facebook, the original family group, and of course it grew. I mean, it grew to like 75,000 people relatively quick.
Very quick.
Yeah, the MAM sub blew up. It had it had 70,000 within a short amount of time, and then it grew even more. I think there's over 75, 80,000 at this point in time. But it all blew up relatively quick. Of course, there was a section that broke off, as I said early on, of the guilters, that same ones that are here today.
Yeah.
For some reason, they're saying, what's the point? But they're still here and still involved, still throwing roadblocks up, still trying to muddy the water with other things. People are saying, "Oh, you watched Making a Murderer. It completely swayed you. How you went in looking at the case."
Hijack your life.
Exactly. No, it really didn't.
Right.
I was pissed off about Brendan, but sorry, Doc, go ahead.
So was that done deliberately by the filmmakers, Laura and Moira? Was that done deliberately, or do you think that's the way it just naturally fell out? Making you ask more questions.
I think the more questions was a deliberate thing, because I feel certain they could have included more information if they had chosen to do that, but because it may have been a little bit too prejudicial one way or the other, they left it up to the viewer to make their own opinion, and if they wanted more information, they were free to get it. Probably understanding, not at the time, but now, they had to open records request material. They couldn't just walk in and get it. They had to request it just like we do, right? So they had to do these requests. So, I think from that learning process that they went through, maybe they felt like, because, we read a lot of these emails and so forth in the Coburn case. There was nothing about this psychological games they were trying to play. Not at all. They wanted to make it, of course, after Netflix got involved, entertaining. They're there to make money. Just like Convicting a Murder is there to make money. And that gets forgotten. It's like, dude, Sean Reck did not make this out of the kindness of his heart. He had investors that invested in this docuseries, and I'm sure they wanted a return, just like Sean did. He's not doing it for a public service. He's doing it to make money.
But
so
do you think
do you think
so, Jack 61? Do you think that Making a Murderer made you ask greater questions?
Yes.
Not about Stephen and Brendan, but the criminal justice system.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It was, it didn't have to be, people, we get accused of being Stephen and Brendan, followers and lovers. That ain't it at all. It's about the criminal justice system and how it was applied and, used in these cases. That's what it's about for me.
Interesting. My final question to you, Jack 61. What about Convicting a Murderer? Did that make you ask more questions or less? Did that discussion or shut it down?
Well, for me, by the time, it all came out here this year, and I'm going to tell you, I fault them. Maybe some of the stuff they didn't know, but they could have actually added in, maybe toward a later episode. There are things that came to light over the course of time, just like they added in drop-ins of Candace Owens. There were things that they found out that they could have corrected from maybe they didn't know in 2018, 2019, but they found out later because we kept requesting a lot of documentation. They could have included that to have corrected some of the hearsay and other things that there was so much hearsay. It really bothered me. You give, Earl and Candy and a few others a microphone that have real problems with, because Stephen was such an asshole when he was younger. And so they allowed them to just go after this guy. That, I get it. We all get it. But that doesn't make someone a murderer. Brendan never did anything. So he's he hasn't had anything in his past that makes him a murderer too somehow? I don't think so. You can't. So the same logic doesn't really apply here. This whole surrounding of the narrative, these narrators that are leading you back to the 80s when these other events happened, to say, well, that's what makes him a murderer in 2005. That's what made him snap. I'm sorry, you're going to have to show me something that I haven't found yet. When we've got a lot of people out there digging, not just us. There are other people that are still requesting material.
Yep.
To this very day.
But don't you find it interesting in Making a Murderer? It started from the beginning and went forward. It started from Stephen's past and went forward.
That's right.
You notice in Convicting a Murderer, they did the opposite.
That's right.
Started with a murder and went backwards. They went back in history.
And they kept dropping in 2005 stuff about Teresa along the way to show you. That's right. It's a psychological thing to say, look what he did here in 1982, and then pop in something from 2005 or 6 about Teresa, and try to make you force that connection. I saw it right away, Doc.
Put the association together was very, very masterfully done. The way it was constructed.
Well, it was, but I think it's a manipulation, and if we're trying to be truthful. If we're trying to be truthful, and I've been reviewing episode 6, which we're going to do tomorrow. There were statements made in that. I've got some things that I've got some notes from so far that I went through, that comments that were made by these people. I think one from Candace, one from Fassbender, as factual evidence that is not factual at all. But they're making that claim in episode 6. I'm like, what? Did I hear that right? Anyway.
Correct. Thank you so much, Jess61. Guys, anybody else on the panel got any comments about Ma'am?
I would like to read Sheila Hawkins' comment. I think it's interesting. She says, convicting a murderer just made me start digging. I was a believer in his innocence, but I guess with all the controversy of Cam, I just wanted to make sure. That's interesting.
Good point.
So it brought people back to the case as well.
Yeah.
Good point.
Well, you have a comment from Earl. He talks about Stephen tying his dog up and dragging it down the road, right? There was no report of that. Earl didn't do anything at all. So why is it important now? I don't get it. If Stephen abused his damn dog, call the fucking cops. Don't sit here on a TV show now because you've got a mic and a camera in your face and throw shade on somebody when you have nothing to back it up. I think it's wrong.
Yeah, we don't know that that's true. It's just Earl saying that, and Earl is obviously digging up everything he possibly can on his brother
to make his brother look bad as well. Yep. Interesting. Susan, any more comments, or Neverly, do you have a comment?
I'm good.
Neverly's microphone. Neverly, do you have any comments about Making a Murderer? Did it make you ask more questions? Was it done deliberately?
Oh, it made me ask a lot of more questions. And what Jack said, that was me. Okay, I started digging deeper and deeper. But when it came to Cam, what it made me do, it's actually not go over back to Cam's episodes. It made me go back to Making a Murderer again.
Interesting.
That's what happened. And I was really hopeful, their advertisement, their teasers, their trailers. He talked about the evidence, the proof. We'll give you the proof of his Stephen being guilty. They really pumped it up so much that I was thinking, I got onto it, into that hype. I'm like, oh, what do they have? You know what I mean? It was kind of concerning. But then, and I'm like, wait a second. They really cannot show anything that was not shown in court.
Yes.
And so far, because that would be a Brady violation if they dug out some information that was never presented in court, even if it wasn't a Brady, right?
Correct.
Still, they wouldn't do that. They wouldn't do that because, Zellner is just waiting, and it would jeopardize their case, even though they're still sitting in prison. It would still jeopardize the case because the case is old, it's frustrating, but it's still kind of active when you think about it. Because
Yeah.
in January, we will see what Zellner has to say. Yeah,
Interesting.
but back to on topic, it just made me think more of ma'am. No, I never wanted to see Cam again because there was nothing of evidentiary value, if you know what I mean.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, so basically, watching Making a Murderer opened you up to greater, more questions, joining groups like Foul Play and others, of course, to ask deeper questions. For me, I hate to say it, but I've got no interest in rewatching any of the episodes of Convicting a Murderer. I frankly haven't learnt anything new. And as Neverly stated, the interesting thing is that it made me go back to Making a Murderer because you pick up more things. I found that Making a Murderer, like the comments have been made in chat and also on the panel, it made me ask more questions. Convicting a Murderer didn't have that effect on me. So, I thank both Laura and Moira for the production that they did. Yes, it is a form of entertainment for their docuseries. It really made me ask a lot of more deeper questions, not only about Stephen and Brendan, but the criminal justice system. And the problem, I've never heard of the Reed technique until I watched Making a Murderer. And yeah, it's a complete shocker. Katie, do you have some comments?
Well, I think just like the group of people who left because the former bad acts were just so illuminating for them that it completely changed how they thought. I mean, those former bad acts were very disturbing to me as well. But what the questions I had were more investigative, were more, okay, well, let's go through this. Now, I wanted to see kind of some evidence that these things did happen. Susan and I had a pretty long conversation about some of the things. And I assumed when I first watched that on cam that there was something that validated those accusations. But I don't think so. What is it? That's where it sent my mind to want to investigate those bad acts to see if there was anything, that made me feel like those are true, but still, that's a small piece of, is Stephen capable of this? That it doesn't, and I know this group of people are I happened to stumble onto Twitter today and see some catty remarks about, we don't approve of these bad acts. Like, piss off, man. No, we don't approve of the bad acts. And we can say it 500 times. LOL. Piss off, man. I don't know.
Thank you for saying that, Katie, because Foul Play has gotten actually kind of this little cloud over our channel because we defend Stephen. Man, let me tell you something. This was never about Stephen. Ever, ever, ever. This was about injustice. This was about the justice system, and this is about the corruption that happens and the fear that could happen to any of us. So forget Stephen. And I don't know disrespect to Stephen. This is a case that we picked to discuss and dig into the truth, like what actually happened over here. Because if it was a cut clear, like black and white, here's the evidence, yes, we wouldn't be here. We would pick another case. So we didn't seek out this case to defend freaking Stephen or anybody on the Avery property. Who cares who the name of this defendant, whose the name is? It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with it that somebody got screwed over, not once, twice. Now let that sink in. So all this prior hearsay that Cam brought out, we don't know if that's freaking true. We don't know the motivation of Earl. We don't know the motivation of, how many times did, what's her name? Not Marie, but the other one, Earl's daughter.
Kayla.
How many times did she flip? Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Imagine the stressors in her life. We're talking about over the last almost 20 years of what happened. So no, I'm sorry if we go, okay, then let's talk about prior indiscretions of Kratz. And I believe truly, as a foul play member, that we would never go after Kratz or anybody else if they didn't start doing this, which is monsterizing Stephen. I think that it's only logical to start, well, wait a second. What about this person? What about that person? What about that person? You know what I mean? I don't think that we would stoop that low if they didn't start the whole thing, the smear campaign. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous because the way, as they said, we had the discussion a couple of weeks ago. Oh, Stephen wore a towel and answered the door. Okay, so does that mean that every murderer does the same thing? Or that everybody who wears a towel is a potential murderer? Come on. We've wasted enough time of this that I don't want to spend another minute on it. It's ridiculous. They are doing nothing to help this case. They're not interested to help this case at all. They're here just to smear, deflect, and point fingers and cause disruption in the regularly scheduled program, as they say.
Yeah, very
that's unfortunate too.
It is. Come on, you're focusing on that and you're going to bicker over that for weeks on end. Here in our chat on X, you're going to focus on that. Show me some proof, something else than this hearsay. Come on. But they're not doing that.
I don't know why these people want to come and be in chat, actually, because if I felt the way they did, if I had watched Cam and I felt, oh my God, I wasn't looking at the whole picture here, I feel so dumb. I really feel he's guilty. I would just go get a life. I mean, I would just go do something fun.
Exactly.
Something different. This gets monotonous sometimes, and I know we're all addicted to it, but nonetheless, if I felt like I wouldn't want that negative energy of coming in here just to fuck with people.
Exactly. It's pretty like a low level. You know what I mean? Low standards. It's like, okay, let's talk about the forensics. What do you have to say about that? Show us something that we don't know already. But no, they choose to talk about Stephen and what he was doing on his porch and, what he did with Dog, that his stupid brother said something like that. Why would Earl even say something like that? What was the payoff? What was the purpose of Earl saying something like that? If it was true, where is the picture of the dog? So I can come out and say all these kinds of things, allegations about any member in this of, 8 billion people in this world. Would that be true? But somehow Cam is being treated as gospel, as the Bible of what happened to Teresa Halbach. Come on.
Yep. Yeah, very, very good point.
It's almost like they forget this case is about murder.
Yes.
It's not about rape. It's not about, because I don't believe Teresa was raped, although she could have been. How would anybody know if she was raped?
How would they know? Yeah, Kratz told us.
Brendan's false testimony.
Yeah.
But yeah, all of those things. And I know, people have said it a million times that those bad acts do not make Stephen a murderer. Did he get a fair trial? No, Stephen did not get a fair trial, and neither did Brendan. And that's what this is all about. And yes, making a murderer started me on this 7.5-year journey that I've been on, learning about our justice system, not just this case, other cases.
There are many.
And there are many, and there are many, many, many problems in our justice system. And it keeps me interested. And that's what Ma'am did for me. I'm here because I see injustice, and you know, I stand for justice, and I want to see justice done. And so
Correct.
And we have nothing to worry about. Stephen and Brendan are in prison.
They're in
Who
prison.
knows if they're going to ever see the light of the day? So if they're guilty, they're at the right place. So that's not even the problem. Again, not to sound cruel, Stephen or Brendan are not the focus. They happen to be Stephen and Brendan. It could have been you or me or anybody else in this world, and we would have done the same thing.
Yeah, the important thing.
It's like they didn't get a memo. They did get a memo, but they choose to do this. You see the difference? So that's why I say the standards are really, really low. Come on.
Yep. But for me, it's all about the methodology of finding Stephen and Brendan guilty, because the forensics, even though the forensic evidence does point to Stephen being involved in this murder, the forensic evidence does not make any sense at all. The state's narrative makes no sense at all. What Brendan Dassey told Fassbender and Wiegert could not be proven by hardcore forensic evidence at all. The narrative was not what the state put forward, right? And like I said, Susan, many months ago, talked about Cuss Road. You know, why didn't they make Cuss Road work? How come they couldn't use that narrative? And a lot of the people that I've spoken to or interacted on X basically say, look, Cuss Road is a no-show. There was nothing there, right? So despite all the resources that were down there, despite the fact that both Loof and Brutus had alerted at Cuss Road, it was just a mistake, right? So
it was only a clandestine burial site.
Only clandestine burial site, but
yeah,
that's why if we go back to slide 2, did Ma'am deliberately make you ask more questions? Yes and no. Ma'am could never tell the full story in 10 episodes, but I believe the genius of Ma'am was that it opened up discussions worldwide. As Susan just eloquently pointed out, what happened to Stephen, what happened to Brendan is not unique. It happens on almost a weekly basis. Plus, there are people who get exonerated on a weekly basis that cost the community, by and large, millions and millions of dollars. But for people who are wrongfully convicted, it's basically destroyed their life, destroyed their family. So there's a big price to pay. So I don't believe that convicting a murderer, their aim was to actually give you a narrative of what actually happened, unless they're doing a cam 2, where they start looking at Kathleen Zellner and what her experts have found. Convicting a murderer spent a huge amount of time basically vilifying Stephen in the hope that his past misgivings would lead you to change your mind on his ability to become a murderer. And that's why convicting a murderer was very, very clever, in that they downplayed anything that made Stephen look like a good guy returning to normalcy, a normal life, but really amplified and exaggerated all the bad things he did. And to make matters worse, he got his own Cam got his own family members to talk badly about him. Jack 61, do you have a quick comment?
I do, and the two things. I got into a little bit of a side argument with someone, talking about
no.
Right, talking about DNA and fingerprints, about what they recovered from the RAV. Now, this is not very long. Their question is, well, they found all this DNA. Why would they need fingerprints? I'm like, why wouldn't you need everything? Isn't it the cop's job to collect all the evidence and make the decision on which direction a investigation should go? Or do we just collect what you think is necessary to convict whoever you're after, right?
Yep. That's a very, very good point, because I've been having the same type of arguments on Twitter or X for a long period of time. There's no way that we have a complete picture of what happened in that RAV. The picture is incomplete. There are unknown prints. There's definitely an unknown DNA sample, maybe more, on that RAV4 that we do not know what it is. Plus, the narrative that the state put forward was blatantly wrong. That's why it's very important to reopen the investigation, give it to an independent body, and go through the whole lot. I thought Convicting a Murderer was going to be that vehicle that was going to do it. Say, guys, here's the forensic evidence. Here's the explanation. This is why Stephen and Brendan are guilty. We got none of that. None.
Right.
It was more.
A lot of it, just poor excuses for stuff that was done wrong.
Correct.
Well, I just wanted to make, and I'm not going to go too far into this. I just wanted to make another point. They're talking about Cam, and I see a lot of manipulation. Hey, look, I admit the man was biased. It was, and we knew that. I mean, immediately afterwards, no, we didn't. I didn't know shit about the case, nothing, until we started getting material in late February, early March, and by that time we had dug up some things, but nothing really legal. Some old news clips that we were able to get our hands on, and N64 was fantastic to do that. A few other things, some newspaper articles, but that's still, we didn't have legal documentation, which we really wanted. We wanted phone calls. We wanted anything that would help us understand fully what happened. But I'll bring this up. So in episode 6, and I'm not going to go, we'll talk about it more tomorrow, they talk a lot about the RAV and the key, a lot. Yeah. They go deep into it. Talking about, and they also talk about the 922 phone call. If you remember, they spent at least 20 minutes on it. I don't think I've completely, because I'm almost done with my getting all the screenshots and the notes. But holy shit, they talk about this phone call, this 922 phone call, and trying to understand. Of course, we didn't know in the beginning when that call happened. Some people thought it was on November 4th, and for a fact, I believe it was November 4th for a while. But then I started thinking, okay, he said he was off on the 4th, so I was not really sure. Of course, then Rookie was able to get the time system logs and another log that showed us exactly when that call happened, which was November 3rd, 9:22 p.m. Also, we were able to get the 9:21 radio traffic between Remaker and Colburn. However, in Convicting a Murder, they're talking about this call and this information about Teresa, him making the call in the first place. They never mentioned that attempt to locate that went out at 6:43 p.m. or whenever the hell it was. It was before 7 on the 3rd. And why Colburn didn't get it. He's the patrol sergeant. How did he miss this? Audio, I'm sure there was an alert that goes out, a tone of some kind. If he had a computer in his car of some kind. If he didn't, I'm sure there was a tone that went out to alert them that an alert was coming to all road patrol. He never mentions it. Not one time has he ever mentioned that alert. Why? How did he miss that? Anyway, just want to bring that up.
Awesome. Alice, did you have a quick comment?
I kind of agree with what the rest of the panel have said. Mom made me want to look more into it because I had watched When They See Us, and that was about the Central Park 5. And that was a good ending. They were found innocent. They were let out of jail. They were railroaded. And I seen that in Mom. You've also got to remember that Mom was 10 years in the making, Doc. It wasn't just something that they willy-nilly went to Wisconsin and they had done in a few weeks and then edited it and everything like that and posted it, you know. It was 10 years these women were on this, you know, and did Ma'am. So when Ma'am came out and I watched it, and I seen Brendan's confession, so-called confession, and everything like that, I was like, no way has these guys done this. He's been set up by the police because DNA got him out the first time, so they're making sure DNA is convicting him permanently for the second time. And Brendan, oh my God. So it made me go online. It made me look, put in Stephen's name and Brendan's name. Are these guys out yet? And when I realised that they weren't out, I was like, Jesus. And nobody that I knew had watched Ma'am yet. So I didn't have anybody to, you know, talk to about it or ask questions or what did you think? Have I picked this up right on this episode? And that was when I found Eric Hosey. Well, I found Rubber Ducky first, and then I found Eric Hosey. And then from Eric Hosey, I found yourselves. And I've been here ever since. So, yeah, Ma'am made me want to look more into it. As of Cam made me wanted to do nothing. Because the stuff that was in Cam, if you've researched the since Ma'am, if you've researched properly and you've read the documents and everything like that, these rumours, because that's all they were, was rumours about Stephen and Marie and all the rest of it, you know, no charges, no allegations, no nothing. Marie recanted and said nothing happened between her and Stephen, you know. If you dug into the case, you knew these things.
She told KZ that. She told Zellner that too.
Yeah, exactly, Jack. She told Zellner that as well, you know. And for people to be keeping bringing it up all the time for that poor lassie when she probably just wants to forget about it, you know what I mean? But people like Cam are bringing it up to try and make Stephen look like a pervert. You know what I mean? Cam done nothing for me. It never changed my mind. It never made me go, oh my God. It never made me think, oh, I better go and look at that a wee bit more, because it was already out there. It was already there, you know. So,
and you know, never let me make one comment. I swear, I power myself shut my mouth. We have to remember that Sean, when he first, you know, brought up he was going to make Convicting a Murderer, he said this is going to be a fair and balanced documentary. That's what he said. That's captured on Twitter and other places. But somehow that got maneuvered and twisted completely. Either he was lying or his mind got changed in some way, right?
Yeah. Well, we were approached by Brenda. The only reason we agreed to do anything with Cam is because it was a balanced, healthy approach, neutral, and so forth. Would you ever agree to be a part of this shit show if you knew that this is how it's going to transpire? Never.
No.
Never.
No chance.
And another thing, if what Alice just said about Ma'am versus Cam, and this is not my quote, I'm just going to paraphrase from for what our supporter, follower, Yoga for the Ageless, James Crane said a couple of weeks ago. He said that Ma'am was filmed over 10 years in real time. So it was just as it was developing. Cam, on the other hand, they had every single opportunity to dissect everything and steer it the way they want. And they chose to defend the law enforcement and to mortify Stephen, right? So not only that, in Ma'am, Kratz, the list was huge. There was like 20 names on the state side that did not want to participate, right? Is that correct?
That's correct.
It is
at
correct.
least probably more than that, Neverly.
Yes. But remember all those exactly. I don't know. I can't picture it. huge list of people that did not want to participate. Well, that's not ma'am's fault. The way it turned out, the way they presented it, had Kratz and the gang, chose to sit down and talk about it. Who knows what ma'am would have looked like? So you can't really blame him for that. That's how I see it.
Yep, good point.
And if you compare the mission or the agenda of ma'am, which was the injustice or justice system, and Cam, what is the agenda for Cam? You tell me.
Exactly. That's exactly right. That's what I was saying. Because their focus shifted to completely trying to go after Stephen, well, obviously destroy him, and Brendan, which comes a little bit later. But really starting about episode 4, they really started going after making a murderer. They'd done a little bit, but then they really dug their heels in about this. I think there was 2 places, maybe a third one, where the trial footage was altered a little bit. Of course, it didn't make any difference. And I'm telling you right now, they talk about this in episode 6 too, about this one shot they used in 3 different times in Making a Murderer. I'm telling you now, it had 0 effect on me. 0. It didn't bother me. It didn't affect me. Didn't change my mind about Colburn's testimony whatsoever.
Yeah, and I think that when we are talking about now Cam, that it was kind of false advertisement, that it was misleading to be nice.
Oh, absolutely.
To be nice and polite and respectful, I'm going to say that it was misleading.
And what did they do? I mean, if the producers and Brenda and Sean Reck and they all believe all these things about Stephen, what they did was re-victimize those victims.
Exactly, by dragging them
to make a buck because they're pissed at making a murderer.
That's right.
That's pretty low.
Well, remember what we talked about last week, guys. Episode 3 and 4 were very, very hard to do as a podcast because it involved very nasty things, and it's very hard to talk about it publicly in an open forum. In my opinion, there was a purpose of doing that, and I agree with what Susan said. It essentially re-victimized everybody all over again. Sometimes matters like this, in my opinion, should be behind closed doors. They're personal, they're delicate. They're not really for what I believe to be public consumption.
Well, Doc, as you as I have talked about, we both have daughters. I know how I'd feel, right?
100% correct. 100% correct. And all of us have got different parenting skills. And again, these are very, very delicate topics. But if you have a look at Convicting a Murderer left nothing out, left nothing to the imagination. They used terrible words all the time. It was all laid bare. And again, you could imagine Kayla, Marie would have to go through all of this all over again. I'm sure they're trying to get on with their life. But again, they're being dredged through the mud. Whereas I believe that stuff like this should be behind closed doors with the appropriate professional people. That's just my opinion.
It's something else to remember, and Neverly, I'll put you up. There are limitations on what we can say on YouTube. There's a community standard thing, and I know a lot of people don't care. But in order for us to operate, we kind of have to stay within the guidepost. You can look it up and see what those things are. They're not. There's an extensive list, but when you start getting into, I care too.
About censorship.
Well, I mean, I care about censorship too. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that within the guidelines of their platform, there are limitations. I mean, I care about censorship. I do, Rhonda. I don't like it, but at the same time, we're playing in their ball field, so there are limitations on what we can talk about because they can limit our access or they can completely remove the video because we've said things that are really inappropriate, right? So just keep that in mind, guys.
Yep, 100% correct. 100% correct. Well, look, guys, shall we get on with our third slide?
I think Neverly has. Oh, you ready to go, Neverly?
You ready
Yeah,
to?
I'm ready to go. It's okay. I can weave it in later on. Thank you, though.
Awesome. So if we look at slide number 3, slide number 3 is very, very interesting. And the question that I've got was, now this one's a real ripper. Was there a conflict of interest with the MTSO being involved in the investigation? And so essentially the clip that we would have normally played talked about the fact that after Teresa Halbach's RAV4 was found on November the 5th by Pam Sturm and her daughter, Nicole, the main issue being that the Avery salvage yard was a large property, was 40 acres. So as a consequence of that, a lot of law enforcement officers and investigators had to be called in, mainly because of how large the property was. And Tom Fassbender was basically saying, look, you know, we needed these officers, we needed evidence collection technicians, etc., etc. And that involved, of course, individuals like Colburn, who was an evidence technician per se, right? So we know that statements were made on television that the investigation was going to be handled by Calumet, because one of the issues was Stephen Avery, one of the prime suspects, he was involved in a civil deposition, a civil lawsuit. And officers like Lenk and Colburn, they were giving depositions, or they had given depositions in Stephen Avery's civil suit. Now, Jerome Buting, or Jerry Buting, had argued in court, hey, look, why are the MTSO officers being involved in this investigation, right? Isn't there meant to be a potential conflict of interest here? What is very interesting, and we'll go over in the panel and in chat in a second, was that when we read the trial testimonies, actually, it didn't really matter to Kratz. It didn't matter to Fassbender and Wiegert. They didn't actually care that MTSO officers were on the investigation or part of the investigation. I think it really was just lip service by Kratz when he said it in the press conference, and also when Mark Rohrer said, hey, look, to make sure there's no conflict of interest, we're going to have nobody from the MTSO be on the property. But of course, guys, that didn't turn out to be the case. So the question to my panel and also in chat, I'll read it again. Was there a conflict of interest with the MTSO being involved in the investigation? Who would like to go first?
They said it themselves right in the beginning.
Yes.
That's why they brought Kratz in. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, there was. And they're trying to say, oh, well, you know, we put a babysitter with them, you know, so just to keep it, you know, so it won't look bad.
So there's no perception. Yes.
That in itself is a problem, though, for me. If you're having an investigation and you have to put one agency watching another one while you're investigating, what the fuck is that? I never heard of it in my life. Ever. I've never heard of it in my life.
Yeah.
But Jack 61, the argument by Fassbender was that the property was 40 acres and they need a lot of law enforcement officers. So
get the FBI, get another agency, Sheboygan,
Dane County,
Dane County,
yeah,
Green Bay. They're huge departments. Call them in. MTSO stays back at the at their place in Manitowoc, and if they need something, sandwiches, then you send out a runner to bring sandwiches. That's the end of their involvement, in my opinion.
Not to mention that the main investigators looking for Evan, going in Stephen's trailer, going in his garage, finding the evidence, are MTSO.
That's right.
What the fuck? I mean, they shouldn't even, Colburn and Remaker, all of them, they shouldn't even have been out searching the yard, as far as I'm concerned, and the cars, or,
Same here.
Yeah, they shouldn't have been on that property, period.
Not even
They could have got
one at a time, guys.
Yeah. How many people are we talking about from MTSO that they utilized, in these searches?
Oh, at least 30, if not 40. And not only that, most of them didn't turn in hardly any reports at all. Jacobs was heavily involved up to his top of his head. He didn't write a single report, not one.
And my understanding, guys, was that neither Lenk or Colburn actually told Fassbender that they were deposed.
They didn't.
They never said that they were. They didn't say that they were being deposed.
Yeah,
correct.
Not relevant. Yeah,
correct.
Yeah,
but,
and Ken Peter.
No, go.
Okay, Ken Peterson said it himself. He said, when I came back from vacation, remember he was in that peculiar time on vacation, he said, I wanted to divorce myself from the case, right?
Correct.
Do we believe that he completely divorced himself, or did he stay behind the scenes and whatever? And that was a smart thing to do. They should have done the same thing. But despite the fact that they knew that ma'am is being filmed, it's not like they were oblivious or that this was done in secrecy, or you know what I mean, in a clandestine way. No, they knew all of that. So I'm telling you guys, we have to thank Moira and Laura to the heavens that they did this project, and that Netflix bought it, and that we saw what we saw, and that it brought us to this very present day. But this is all with being filmed and documented. Imagine what would have happened with this case if it wasn't documented. It would have been done just like, remember Ricky Hofstadler's case?
Yep. Correct. Hochschlader, correct. But you see, one of the basic tenets of CAM is that the filmmakers, Laura and Moira, were heavily criticized for the way they went about making a murderer, right? So it's very, very interesting that in Convicting a Murderer, we're all singing the praises of the filmmakers, that it allowed greater questions to be asked and more research to be done. But in Convicting a Murderer, I remember a lot of the statements done by Candace, by Brenda, were very, very scathing on the film directors. Furthermore, we were roped in as well, and many other so-called truthers, part of the truther community, were also roped in as being the bad guys, because somehow we were supporting Stephen's bad character, bad acts, etc., and we weren't meant to be asking deeper, harder questions. We had to just accept what the state found and be happy with the conviction of both Brendan and both Stephen Avery, and just let it be, right? So in that regard, it's very interesting how this investigation panned out. And when we read the trial testimony, you could see that Kratz didn't care that the MTSO were there. Fassbender didn't care that the MTSO went there, and nor with Wiegert. They were asked direct questions. I remember by Strang and Buting, would have you changed your mind if you had known that this officer and that officer were MTSO and were part of the civil lawsuit? And they said no. They did not care. So this perceived conflict of interest, guys, what conflict of interest? The investigators never believed that there was a conflict of interest. But as Jack 61 pointed out, and the others, a lot of the MTSO officers, they were putting their hands on crucial forensic evidence. It was being found by the MTSO officers. But to make matters worse, What did Fassbender say and cry about all the time? A lack of resources. Right, Jack 61? Right, guys? The number one complaint was a lack of resources. How crazy is it that they had to use officers from other counties to act as chaperones for the MTSO officers? Guys, have you ever encountered that? And people in chat, I'd love to get your comments on that. Don't you think if those MTSO officers were not involved, hey, look, stay behind the scenes. We've got it. We've got your back. We'll do the investigation. Don't get involved. But then to bring in other officers to say, keep an eye on him, keep an eye on her, make sure that you write down everything down. Guys, are we kidding
That
us?
was just for show. That
Yes.
was just the theatrics. That's what it was, in my humble opinion.
Compliance, as
And
a form of compliance.
yes, and to go back to demonizing Laura and Moira, I have a trouble pronouncing their names. Anyways, by Cam, look what's happening. They tried to take the mask off of them, that they were biased, that they were doing this, that they believed that Stephen was innocent, and they played those prison jail calls and so forth. Okay, then Candice and Brenda. If Moira and Laura were biased, how about you, sweethearts? Were you biased? Of course they were biased. Everybody has an agenda. Somebody
Correct.
who writes a book, fictional or whatever, they have an agenda. Any movie has an agenda. What they want to say. Any poem has an agenda.
Yeah.
Right? So they made this big, huge deal about, being deceitful, not being honest, and so forth. To me, so did Brenda and Candice. Because they were so militantly defending law enforcement to the point of ludicrousy.
Yep, and 100% agree, Neverly. And just to answer the question, the MTSO, they were from the officers from the Manitowoc Sheriff's Office, right? The Manitowoc Sheriff's Office. And Stephen Avery had a lawsuit, a civil lawsuit, a $36 million civil lawsuit against Tom Kacerik, who was the ex-sheriff, the ex-DA, Dennis Vogel, and members of the MTSO, and the city of Manitowoc. And the problem was, in order to make sure that there was no conflict of interest, the MTSO officers should not have been on the property because there is perceived a conflict of interest, right? Because Stephen had the civil lawsuit going at the same time. And the interesting thing is, the next two people that were going to be deposed was the sheriff and the district attorney, right? And Stephen got arrested on November the 9th. I believe on November the 10th, the sheriff was going to be deposed, and that didn't happen, right? And a big hullabaloo was made why the coroner was not permitted onto the property. And the reason that they gave in convicting a murderer and also on making a murderer was the conflict of interest. So you couldn't have the coroner, even though the coroner has an independent office from the MTSO, mattered not. They did not allow the coroner to come on board. In fact, she was threatened with arrest. So you had this crazy situation.
She wasn't even called to be allowed to make the decision.
No. So you could imagine, right? The coroner found out about it from TV. So when she was on the courtroom to testify, Norm Garn told the judge, look, judge, we want to be heard outside the presence of the jury, and we want to toss out Deborah Kakich. And the judge did. The judge took the coroner off the stand, and she never testified because it was going to look bad. Right? That's the problem. It was going to look bad. So the crazy thing is this. the investigation was doomed from the start because the investigators kept on making all these errors and mistakes. As a consequence of making a murderer, many people, many researchers, many groups over a long period of time have shown the shortcomings. Convicting a murderer had people like Fassbender, Kratz, all saying, yeah, you know, we should have done this, we should have done that. And basically, that's it, right? They're just giving apologies. But you can see that individuals can be and should be critical the way the investigation unfolded and rolled out, right?
Absolutely.
If the investigators did the right thing from the get-go, guys, would we be here today? Probably not, unless we were very suspicious on the way the forensic evidence panned out. But when you have the MTSO officers actually touching the physical evidence, one naturally becomes suspicious, rightly or wrongly. So, guys, if we can just go around the panel, do you think there was a conflict of interest? And in chat, do you think there was a conflict of interest? Jack 61, what do you think, sir? Do you think there was?
Huge conflict of interest. In my opinion, the county was involved in a massive lawsuit, federal lawsuit, with this guy that they're now pouring all their resources into. Manitowoc shouldn't have been involved. And one more thing about this coroner deal, and people that haven't listened to the dispatch calls probably are unaware, but we've got them. Remember that I can't think of the guy's name, but this because they have assistant coroners that help Debka catch, and they get assigned different hours and so forth. One of them actually calls into Manitowoc looking for Shetter, and then a couple of days later, and I don't forgive me, I don't remember the dates. Shetter calls to dispatch and wants whoever's on duty to call him. I think it was the 9th, but I'm not positive, but I think it was the 9th. So there's that as well. But
yeah, because the death certificate was signed on the 10th, right?
On the 10th, correct.
Yeah.
But was that CASO or MTSO?
The MTSO. It's absolutely MTSO. And it was the mandatory, whoever the assistant was assigned duty that day, Shetter wanted to talk to him. But
and just to make it clear, CASO is Calumet Sheriff's Office.
Calumet.
That's right.
Calumet County. Yeah.
That's right.
Correct.
And you know, but to be clear, you have an investigation going. It gets turned over to a smaller department that obviously needs help. You don't let the county that is letting you have it come in under mutual aid, and then you stay involved up to your neck. And they were. Make no mistake about that. No one should ever. You just have to look at the material that's out there. It's free. Go look at it. Go listen to the calls. They were involved up to their eyeballs, and they were investigating. They weren't just providing resources. That's a lie. They should have never been involved, in my opinion.
100% agree. Just Rhonda, what about yourself? Do you think there was a conflict of interest having the MTSO present?
Yes, of course. Of course there was a conflict of interest. And like Susan said, they admitted, Pagel said that in the very beginning. He admitted that or announced that. And it was absolutely a conflict of interest. So
interesting.
That's all I have to say about that.
Interesting. Alice, what about yourself? Conflict of interest by the MTSO?
Yes, definitely. They shouldn't have been anywhere near that property at all. There could have been, there's other states. You've got Appleton, you've got Green Bay, you've got Brown County, the surrounding areas that would have come together if they knew the whole facts of the case, that MTSO couldn't have anything to do with it because they were in the middle of a lawsuit So I guarantee you police for the other counties would have volunteered their services.
They did.
To go and search the property and search for this young lassie that's missing and everything like that. So in my opinion, there was no reason, rhyme or anything for NTSO to be on that property, period. Whether they had a babysitter or not, if you're having to babysit cops at a crime scene, then there is seriously something fucking wrong with that whole police force. If you need to have other officers for a different county come in and babysit the officers to make sure that there's no shenanigans going on, and then to top it all off, the babysitter's seen nothing and there was more shenanigans that went on, period, in this whole case. I mean, like you said, Doc, if they'd have done it properly, if MTSO had stayed away and wasn't anywhere involved, and that key was found, and the bullet was found, and everything like that, we wouldn't all be sitting here right now talking about this and bringing it up and bringing it to people's attention at just how ridiculous that this case actually is. You know, I mean, I hate it when people say, you know, we're deluded, we're supporting these bad acts, we're biased, we're this and we're that. No, if we thought for a minute that there wasn't an injustice here, there's no way we'd be sitting here doing this. We'd probably be paying all our attention onto Daniel's case. Never mind anything else. You know what I mean? Or Luke's case, or what's the other one that Amy does?
There are many cases.
I forgot the lassie's name. Is it Ashley? Ashley Gavin? Yeah, that one. Thanks, Sheree. You know what I mean? There is other cases out there that our time and our effort could be doing with to deep dive and dig into their cases and everything like that. But we're passionate about this because we've seen injustices. We've seen wrongs being done to innocent people. And that's why we are here.
Yep. True. Yeah, very good point. What about yourself, Susan? Conflict of interest?
Yeah,
yes or no?
There was, well, of course, there was definitely a conflict of interest. And I'll just remind everybody, Kaharski on the stand when Buting or Strang, I always forget which one did which, but asked him, you know, you were a babysitter in essence. Did you keep an eye on these guys, what they were doing? He's like,
yep.
No, I didn't feel like I needed to do that.
Wasn't that Tyson? Wasn't that Tyson?
Paraphrasing, but
it was Tyson and Kacharsky that were babysitters.
That's right.
Correct.
That's right.
Correct.
Yeah.
Look,
that was not his. He did not feel like he was there to keep an eye on these guys. So that's just ludicrous that they say, you know, they did that to protect the integrity of the investigation. Give me a frickin' break. Yeah.
Correct. I agree. 100% agree. What about yourself, Katie? Conflict of interest or not?
Yeah, definitely conflict of interest. I mean, someone said they could bring sandwiches, but no, they can't bring sandwiches even. They can't bring anything. They can't do security at the perimeter. They can't be, I mean, there's so many opportunities to mess with procedures, the sign-in sheet. And, you know, Andy's never said he had never had his integrity tested or questioned on the stand. You know, so they come in, they're supposed to have babysitters. The babysitters think of them in a certain way. I mean, the babysitters are either corrupt too, or they just say, hey, these are seasoned law enforcement officers. There's no need to babysit them. They don't know that, hey, if these are crooked cops or not. And yeah, it's a bad deal. There all kinds of problems can happen. You can drop something place something on your way in with the sandwiches. I mean, yeah.
Right. So
Sickening.
there's no, what I can't understand is why leave that door open? Why leave that possibility open? So my question is, before I get on to, I don't recall, would the investigation have suffered anything if MTSO were not involved? Do you think the investigation would have suffered greatly if the MTSO were not involved?
No.
Do you think it would have gone
would
ahead?
have been more honest?
I mean, you know, there are probably dirty cops in Calumet County too that that may have decided to help the case along. You know, we think he's guilty.
Well, look what Civil
whatever
did.
their motivation is, that cops do that all the time. I'm sorry. They decide.
The problem with Stephen's lawsuit, I mean, really, it went all the way to the top. I mean, he didn't sue Peg Schlager, but she was the ultimate person
the buck stops with her.
Buck stops with her.
Yep.
So that includes the entire state, really. That includes
Correct.
DCI, and you know, so yeah, that's
correct. Yep, I agree.
Well, you know, another thing, Doc, and I don't expect anyone to answer this question, but you can roll this marble around in their heads. Damn, I just forgot my question or my comment. It just dropped out of my brain like a rock.
Hey, welcome to my world.
It'll come back to me, I promise.
All right. What about you? I don't recall. Do you think there was a conflict of interest?
Oh yeah, 100%. But you know that Calumet wouldn't have had the resources without Manitowoc. So I'm being sarcastic.
Yes. Now you have a legal background, of course, right?
Yeah, a brief one. I haven't been an attorney very long, but
yep.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, you do have a legal background. So again, what is remarkable is from when we looked at the login logout sheets, there was on average between 100 to 200 people on the Avery salvage yard or around the Avery salvage yard per day. And we had volunteer searchers all around the county looking for Teresa Horbach, her car and her possessions. So there were a lot of people involved in searching for Teresa Horbach, right? And the excuse of not having enough evidence text, we'll get onto that in a second, but it's very, very interesting. So for me, what pricked my ears when I saw Making a Murder was thinking, wait a minute, what the hell are the MTSO being involved in this investigation? Aren't there enough investigators around, right? And Tom Fassbender basically said, look, the way we approach it, we get intelligence, and that's why they started at Stephen Avery's trailer and then fanned out. But the problem is their investigation was not very good or complete. One element that they left out, and we'll talk about this later on, is Stephen Avery's burn pit. And we'll talk about how that was discovered, right? That wasn't the first bone or cremain or bone fragment wasn't discovered until November the 8th. So despite the officers starting at Stephen Avery's trailer and fanning out and checking all the other buildings, they didn't really check the surroundings very well at all. For example, the burn pit. So it goes to show that if you're going to do an investigation, for me, I wouldn't have involved the MTSO because it was perceived as a conflict of interest. As a result of the MTSO being involved, the investigation itself received a lot of criticism. And to me, that then led to Stephen Avery's planting hypothesis that they're setting me up, right? Hey, I've got a civil suit going. What are the MTSO officers doing on the property? Oh my God, the MTSO are finding forensic evidence. They must be planting stuff. So to me, that left the door open. Neverly, what do you think? Conflict of interest or not?
Definitely. But I want to read Stuart King's. He's in chat. Hello, Stuart. And that could be my answer as well. He said, with no MTSO involvement, the investigation would have had a greater level of credibility. There you go.
Good point.
And integrity. And would we can't say if we would have questioned it as much as we do right now with MTSO involvement. But as you said, that just was a starting point for us to question. It's like, wait a second, why are they even involved? Why are they allowing that? Yet, on the other side, Pagel is saying, oh, no, they're just here to be supportive with their, what did he say? It wasn't equipment, but yeah, with the equipment.
Resources.
Right?
Yeah,
resources. Yeah. Well, maybe they are treating their officers as equipment, as tools, but no, that was kind of silly of me to say.
Yeah, few of them are tools, if I may say so.
Yeah.
Well, another question.
I totally agree with Stuart. Yeah, go ahead. Did you remember? No more swirling? Okay, go ahead.
Right. Well, I think we all have to roll this marble around in our head and thinking about how much, because Batman are bitched and griped about resources for, I don't know, months. Okay, so if you remove MTSO from the equation and bring in another department, Green Bay, as we talked about, any other, how much would that have helped with not having to have a Calumet County officer with an MTSO officer every time they went out to do something? That affected the investigation. Anybody can see that. It's such crap, man.
You're basically doubling up. And at the end of the day, why didn't the babysitter do the investigative work?
That's right.
What was the babysitter, the person saying, no, they didn't plant anything. Oh, yes, I saw him go over there. Yes, no. Right? It's a form of doubling up. And a waste of resources, in my opinion. Susan?
I think, really, thinking about it, I think it's one of the biggest reasons that I'm here. Because of the fact that MTSO found all of this evidence and their conflict of interest.
Good point.
Good point. Yeah. And, having 100 officers a day out there, did they really have to go through every car twice?
No. We had this argument ages ago, right?
That overtime's not going to make itself, guys. Come on now.
Yeah, 100% correct. It's very interesting.
But they had to find those license plates, didn't they? They didn't find them the first time around.
Oh no. They were found by fire brigade officers, which is really, really interesting because the number plates themselves were just tossed in the station wagon. So they were essentially out in the open, right? They weren't hidden or anything like that. They were found. So it goes to show that that's actually you made a very good suggestion. They had to find stuff, right? Because when they brought in the cadaver dogs, the human decomposition dogs, they, on November the 5th, they went through the entire yard. They gridded up the salvage yard. They brought in a team of dogs. They searched all the vehicles. And the dogs alerted where there was blood, right? They were all correct.
That's right.
There were no false positives. There were nothing. Where the dogs alerted, they checked in the vehicle and they saw blood. The only vehicle where they didn't see blood, ironically, was the RAV4. Right? No one spotted any blood. But all the other vehicles and also the burn barrels and also the golf cart and other places around the property, the dogs alerted to. Despite that, they brought in all the officers from the fire brigade to recheck and open up all the vehicles, get the vehicles that were crushed and open them all up. So so in other words, they made a rod for their own back. They didn't obviously trust the canines in their findings, and insisted in doubling up and opening up all the vehicles, and they found nothing.
Nothing.
Ronald D. Cass said that Stephen knew he did nothing. Any evidence had to be planted. How true is that? That's why he started saying that from the beginning.
But here's the ultimate irony, right? Here's the ultimate irony. He's got a civil suit with the MTSO, right? Both Colburn and Lenk are deposed. They give a deposition. Who did Stephen target for planting forensic evidence? Lenk and Colburn.
That's right.
The very two officers that were deposed only a couple of weeks before Teresa Horbuck went missing. Now, don't you think the investigators could have prevented this horrible shit show that transpired in Stephen's trial had the MTSO officer said, I'm sorry, I've got to recuse myself. I'm part of the civil deposition. I do not want to get involved. I'll stay in the background. Why? Why did they get involved?
I would have went to the boss and said, look, I've been named in this civil suit. I can't be involved in this investigation. I might, if something happens, I may be found liable for something. I can't be involved. That didn't happen at all.
But the thought never crossed their minds. And
Nope.
you can tell what Tom Fassbender said, he didn't care. They did not care that they were MTSO officers. They needed them as evidence collection, and I'll talk about that in a second. It's complete madness. So can we have a look at the next slide? Katie, do you have a comment?
I was just going to say, when you guys were talking about all that, I was thinking about those phone calls that Jack played on open mic.
Yes.
Where I can't remember what two officers it was that were coaching each other's about timelines so that they could make sure that they're.
That was Yost and Sipple.
Yes.
Basically trying to set a narrative with their reports, and it's all documented in those phone calls. So yeah, it was just shady as shit.
Well, it went further than that, because after that phone call, he said, well, I'll just drop by up there. So they worked it out. But at the same time, these guys found I think the biggest alleged find in the case, and they don't want shit to do with it. They don't want anything to do with it. That should have been raised to detect you. You're getting you're getting a gold badge, dude. Look what you found. Are you kidding me?
I did not want. Anyway, let's remain focused. So, in convicting a murderer, yes.
Sorry,
yes.
Dr. Silkman. I just wanted to, in regards to who collected the evidence and why. Travis is in chat. Hi, Travis. He said,
Welcome.
well, Andy did go through an 8-hour class on evidence collection. I could see why he was brought in for his vast experience. Yeah.
Correct. But it gets worse than that, right? So in the next slide, convicting a murderer kept on going, right? They said, look, hey, and they even showed clips of Pagel appearing on the 5th, the 6th, and on the 8th, and then you had Ken Kratz saying, hey, look, the only involvement of the MTSO was just simply to supply equipment. So my question is, if the MTSO were only present to supply equipment, guys, what's the problem? What is the problem? So can we go around the panel and in chat? Guys, they were only there to supply equipment. So guys, what's the problem? Kratz didn't have a problem. Pagel didn't have a problem. So guys, if they're only there to supply equipment, what's the problem with Jack 61? Do you see a problem?
Well, I see a huge problem, because they did far more than just bring in sandwiches and set up they got the command center set up out there. They did far more than that, and I understand they're a far larger department than Calumet County, but again, Calumet, once they were handed off under the Mutual Aid Pact in Wisconsin, they could have requested help from any other department, and they would have said yes or no and kept going. Just because Manitowoc was right there, that to me that doesn't give them a free ride. Considering the lawsuit, if there was no lawsuit, we've got a different conversation, right? To me, plus you have all this extraneous shit that happened in '85 against that department that Avery's accusing them of. You don't involve yourself in it. And so anyway, moving forward, I'm not going to stretch this out. Then you have these various officers. Yeah, there were some that did make reports. Then Remaker took all these reports and made a summary. We haven't got to read the full reports. But then you have a whole other pack of officers that didn't write a single report that were heavily involved. And I just named Jacobs. He was hugely involved.
What about Mike Bushman?
Bushman was involved. No report.
Reports.
Nope. You think about, the Cuss Road and the disturbed earth, all of that. That was him, and that led to basically an all-day affair where they found basically nothing. Okay, I got issues with that, but anyway.
Correct.
Yeah, they supplied far more than just support. That's bullshit.
Okay.
Well, to me, what Pagel said, that they're there just to provide equipment, like resources in that manner. To me, that's just words and words only. Right?
It's the appearance of compliance.
The appearance, the theatrics again, the show. We have to say those things. We say one thing and then, behind the scenes, we do whatever we want. We run the show, which reminds me again what Kratz said in Stevens' trial, that only one person and one person only did this crime, right? But then he fucked Brandon later on.
Yep.
Yeah.
Correct.
So it's the words, which means nothing. They mean nothing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any comments about what the problem was with the MTSO? They're only there to supply equipment, right? Does anyone have any additional comments? Are we all good?
Everything.
Katie?
Everything.
Well, that's just not true. Yeah.
Yeah, it isn't true. So let me just summarize it for you, and let's see if you can spot the problem. Right? We had Mike Bushman. He was semi-retired. He's part of Search Team A, and he finds the clandestine burial site. We've got Sergeant Jason Jost. He's the first person that finds human cremains or cremains at the burn pit. You've got Colburn, right? Colburn. He finds a .22 bullet pack. He also is involved in swabbing and collecting evidence. He's also involved in doing photography. He calls in the license plates. He talks to Stephen Avery. He's around, right? Then you've got James Lenk. He allegedly finds the key belonging to Teresa Horbach in Stephen Avery's bedroom. And finally, you've got David Siders, who finds the burnt electronics that belong to Teresa. So did the MTSO just supply equipment?
Did they bring any sandwiches?
Nope.
How about they supply the evidence?
So in other words, you could tell from what I've just read out, they were intimately involved in finding incriminating evidence against Stephen, right? So this fallacy about that they were only involved in supplying equipment, that is not true at all. So not only was there a conflict of interest, but they were physically collecting evidence that was going to be used against Stephen, right? Does anyone have any final comments before we go on to the next slide? I can't see your microphones. Anyone have? Just speak up, guys. We all good? We all good, guys?
All
right.
good, Doc. Yeah, all good.
Awesome. Let's get on with the next slide, guys. Right. So then they, in convicting a murderer, they switch tact, right? So let's have a look at slide number 5. And they're saying that, well, look, the reason why no one saw the RAV4 on the property is because it was so well hidden. It was hidden from view. And it's amazing how, how when they spoke with Earl said, yeah, look, I was sitting there for an hour and I didn't see it until they, pointed it out to me. And remember, Earl, during one of his statements, said, look, I went down there with Robert Fabian. We're sighting in our guns. We're shooting. We're looking for rabbits. We went down that aisle. We never saw Teresa Hallbach's RAV4, right? And then you had John Erdl, who said, well, the RAV4, it was nice and shiny. It was new. It really didn't belong there. All the other cars were quite old and rusty, and it really stood out. But my question to you guys, and also in chat, is the reason why no one spotted the RAV was because it was so well hidden. And hence, what did you expect, guys? Have a look at the picture that Nicole Sturm took. You've got debris and other items around the RAV4. Of course, no one could have spotted it. What do you reckon, guys? Yes.
I think that debris makes it more stand out more, because you don't see boards and everything stacked around on other cars in the junkyard. Why? It's like an obvious trying to.
Yeah, sticking out like a sore thumb.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And what about that big, huge sign of RAV4 on the spare tire?
Yep. But according to Tom Fallon, well, hey, Earl couldn't see it, so it must have been well hidden. So the intentions by Stephen and Brendan was to disguise the RAV so no one could spot it. What do you think, guys? I can't see your microphone, so just go for it.
Yeah, it's bullshit. That's what it is.
Yeah, it makes it look more suspicious. The way
again, words and words only. They're talking like everybody's stupid.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, you see what I'm saying? They're saying, yeah, it was well hidden and blah blah blah. And when we see this picture, oh my gosh, it sticks out like a sore thumb again.
Right. So
it's just their words.
So what was Stephen and Brendan thinking? Did they do such a poor job, or what does that indicate to you? Does that look like a well-executed plan to hide the RAV?
No,
it's ludicrous.
Yep. And JD made a good comment. Pam of Gold was like a heat-seeking missile. Oh, look, there's no doubt. The evidence tends to suggest that she walked straight to it and found it in world record time, and she was guided there by God. God showed her the way.
Oh my God.
So here's the question. Here's the question, a serious question. Guys, if you had committed this crime and you drove the victim's vehicle there, what would you have done to it? Would have you disguised it like this, or what would you have done? I can't see the
I would
panel.
have taken it a long way away and set it on fire.
Okay.
So that it burned up all the evidence.
Okay. But Susan, wasn't your intentions to crush the vehicle without your brothers knowing?
Oh, please. That makes, like they say, you got to take the engine out. You got to, take all this shit off of it. That takes time. That takes, you're in a public place. You have family that lives there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, no. I mean, we're talking if it happened on the 31st.
Yes.
We're talking it sat there for
objection
6 days.
Yes.
No.
And it wasn't spotted from the air either by
Right.
an aeroplane by Pagel and Baldwin and by Curtis Drum. They never saw it, despite flying low over the Avery salvage yard for about 18 to 20 minutes. So
that
I
would
wanna
have
go-
stuck out with all that stuff on it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it sticks out from all the other cars, even
because it's different. It's
from
different.
above as well. Yeah, it's different.
Okay.
Yes.
And Sheila Hawkins had a good question. She said, "Oh, he was worried about seeing him crash the car, but not about burning a body in his yard
Yeah, correct.
next
Correct.
to his sister's house, who has 4 kids, and his mom comes over constantly." Yeah.
Yep. 100% correct. But there's a very interesting issue here, guys, and that is remember what Earl did with Robert Fabian. I believe on the Monday they collected 2 trees or several trees, which Earl was going to take home. Do you realize what's actually behind the RAV and in front of the RAV that Earl described? You know what he said? What was propped up against the RAV?
Trees.
Trees.
What a weird coincidence, isn't it?
Which included, he said that the roots were still attached. Now, wait a minute. Earl collected these trees and he put them near the conveyor. How did or who picked up trees and used them to place against the RAV4? Was it Stephen? Did he borrow the end loader? How did he get the trees there? A deadly silence. Deadly silence. Jack 61. As Jack just stepped out a bit.
Sorry. We couldn't find the mute button.
No. Can we have the panel? Can I see the panel?
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
No. So guys, does it make any sense with Stephen and Brendan driving the RAV4 and leaving it the way they did? Does it make any logical sense?
Just like it does not make any sense that they took Teresa from the trailer into the RAV to drive her to the garage, put her on the creeper and put it back in, which is all like 5 feet, within 5 feet or whatever. You know what I mean? It just doesn't make any sense. And JD said, he goes, at least remove the spare tire cover or smash the windshield, right? So it can look older. Yeah.
You mean the one that says RAV4? Toyota RAV4?
Yeah.
So guys, I just want a yes or no, and people in chat. Do you believe that Stephen and Brendan drove that RAV there? Jack 61, yes or no?
Say that again, Doc.
Do you believe that Stephen Avery and Brendan Dassey drove Teresa's RAV4 and left it at the pit?
No.
Okay.
No.
Just Rhonda.
No.
Alice.
No.
Susan.
I do not. No.
Okay. Interesting. Kate.
No.
I don't recall.
No.
Neverly.
Negative.
Myself. NFW. Now, the question is, are all our amygdalas hijacked, or did we just use common sense and logic to think, how in the hell, this is someone who works at the salvage yard, knows about stripping cars, knows that the police have been on his property, knows that the press have been on his property, knows that there's a missing person, knows that he called Teresa Hallbach, knows that an aeroplane flew overhead one day prior, and Stephen leaves the vehicle there from October the 31st to November the 5th in the hope that nobody from the public or the police or anybody coming in from the quarries spots a blue RAV4. the victim's
And
vehicle.
then he leaves town on a pre-planned vacation.
He goes to Crivets on November the 5th.
Yeah.
Correct. What are we missing? Guys, what are we missing here?
Logic.
Logic, common sense. And the fact is, how was Stephen going to crush this vehicle with petrol still in the tank, a motor, a transmission, a battery, everything? If he had tried to crush this vehicle, what likely would have happened to the RAV4? With a petrol
Maybe
tank?
explode.
Potentially explode? Do you think that's a good look? With the quarry workers right next door thinking, what the hell is that explosion? And wouldn't they call the police or the fire brigade who would descend on the property? And how was Stephen going to crush this vehicle with people around? And he stayed at Crivets. He never gave an excuse to say to Earl, look, I'm not feeling too good. I'll come later. Let me just stay. I've got a few things to do. Guys.
Well, to be honest, okay,
yeah.
Stephen could have come back on Saturday afternoon after Earl closed the shop. Okay.
Okay, good point.
He could have taken the RAV apart. He could have crushed it. But
yeah, sorry.
Because he had Colburn there on the 3rd, he had Remaker and Link there on the 4th. They had the planes flying. No, he wouldn't have not just gone to Crivets and left that vehicle there. There's no way.
But the other problem, though, Susan, is that they had all the searchers going around the property. And how do you think Stephen would have gotten back onto the Avery salvage yard without being spotted? I could tell you right now.
They also had media there.
Yes. I would dare say that because they knew that Teresa had visited the property, it's very likely they would have had a cop car at all access points. There's no way.
The telephone calls did describe how much of that area they had shut down and how many checkpoints there were. It was amazing.
Yes.
I mean, not until after they found the RAV. Not until
that was
after they found it. Yeah,
okay.
The morning of the 5th.
Right.
Sorry, I'm a newbie.
No, but
right.
Don't you guys think that there would have been law enforcement out and about? Knowing
Stephen would have known that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So how was Stephen going to get back onto the property to crush the RAV?
Plus, do we have any phone calls from Stephen calling constantly Earl to check, hey, what's going on? What are they saying? Blah, blah. Any presence of policemen on our property, right?
No, you know that Stephen attempted to come back onto the property, but they stopped him. He came with his sister. I can't remember which day. Was it the 8th? One of the days he came with his sister and they stopped him at the checkpoint.
Wasn't he supposed to come back on the 8th?
Yeah, that I'm not sure. No, as soon as they found the RAV4, Stephen even said that his driveway at Crivets was all lined up with police cars. They were watching him.
When was he supposed to come home, like regularly?
I don't know. Does anyone
Sunday.
know?
On Sunday, because
Sunday
he works on Monday. Yeah.
Right. I think
But that's when they arrested him.
If Stephen had done this and the RAV was indeed parked there, once Remaker and Link came and looked through his house, looked through his garage, I think that night, the night of the 4th, in the middle of the night, Stephen would have gone and moved that RAV and taken it off the property. He's not going to leave and go to Crivets and leave that car there. There's just no way.
Good point. But does that suggest to you and everyone on the panel and chat that the RAV4 actually was already off the property and got brought back to the property? Does that make more sense?
I believe that's what happened.
Yeah. Interesting. And
Yeah, you've also got to remember, Doc, was it
Yes.
Seabuck that came forward and says that he's seen a white Jeep and a vehicle looking the same as the RAV driving past his residence, and then only one of them came back.
It's exactly what came to my mind, Alice. Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
Can you
I believe the old man.
We've got a witness that says that
Oh,
he's
yeah.
seen two motors driving past his house and only one of them leaving. Now, I mean, Stephen needs to change his name when he gets out of jail by default to Houdini, because he seems to be able to make things disappear and reappear at the most awkward and precise moments to suit the state's narrative. It's ridiculous. It really is ridiculous. And I'm more inclined to believe Seabuck, who was a witness that says he's seen two motors gone past his house. One was a white Jeep and one was the RAV. I would rather believe him than anybody on MTSO or anything like that.
Well, the disturbing thing is, if you look at the dog tracks go down that way. The dogs go down that way. So essentially, what Seabert was saying was that the RAV4 came from the quarry. But then you go, okay, well, what did Tom Sawinski see? Because he saw the RAV coming from Avery Road going down. So you've got all these conflicting statements. Which one is correct? They can't all be correct, right? But the point is this: when you distill it down, there were multiple witnesses that saw Tariq appeared to have seen the victim's vehicle off the Avery salvage yard. The anecdotal evidence suggests that, because Earl, Robert Fabian, any member of the public could have been down at the pit area. They never saw a RAV4. Up above by an aeroplane, they never saw the RAV4. Then magically on November the 5th, they find it and all hell breaks loose, right? So, and the other thing, of course, is what did Chuck Avery say? He saw lights near his property, which, remember, straight down from his property is the pit, the crusher and the pit area. Chuck should never have seen who the lights from. But Chuck did one thing that's very interesting, right, Jack 61? Chuck never stopped and turned around. Chuck called his brother to go and investigate.
Yep.
And there is a report in which they spoke to someone who knows Chuck, who said, Chuck never let anyone leave the salvage yard if you were caught on his property. And remember what they said. One of the biggest problems that they had were people coming in from the quarry and stealing car parts.
That's right. That was a problem for him.
And all of a sudden, Chuck sees headlights near his property and decides to call his brother instead of going back and investigating. Yet, Chuck and Stephen went back one day prior to check out the tail lights near Stephen's property. So I'm not saying it's unusual. I'm just saying I'm noting the behavior change in Chuck. Because people say, no. If he saw you on his property, he would definitely come back.
Yeah, but not only that, Doc. I think it was either Mam 1 or Mam 2. I think it was Mam 1 in one of the episodes of Mam 1. They had a red motor going diagonally across an access road to stop people coming in. And that is where I think, now this is just my opinion, my speculation. As soon as I seen that red motor and I heard about that red motor, and Chuck even said that red motor had been moved because it wasn't in the place where they had put it diagonally across the road. I think that the RAV hit that motor, and that's why there could be a problem with the blinker light. I think that's why the blinker light could have been picked up and shoved in the back of the motor, because they were like, oh shit, what have I done? Can't leave any evidence, pick it up, fling it in the back of the RAV and drive the motor the rest of the way. No lights on, no nothing. Or just the brake light shining at the back, you know, with them seeing lights. So you've also got to remember that. And I'm positive it was Chucky that said that that motor had been moved. It wasn't the way they had put it.
It was Earl. And that
Was
particular
it
car, Earl, and that particular car had no motor inside, so it was easy to move. Right?
Exactly. But
Because
the person who was driving onto that, Doc, wouldn't have known that there was no engine in that motor. Yeah, it would have been parts, maybe no windies, no nothing. But how were they to know that there wasn't an engine in that motor? And I think that because they didn't know that there was no engine in that motor, that they've sped up to push that motor out the way, no realising just how easy it would have been. And they've hit it that hard that it's knocked the blinker light out, and they've went, oh shit, flung it in the back of the RAV, and then planted the RAV where they planted it. And as I say, that's just my speculation and my opinion and my thoughts when I heard them say that that motor was one way and it had been moved, and they never moved it. If they never moved it, who moved it?
Interesting point. Jack 61. Thank you, Alice.
You're talking about the red Pinto, right?
Pinto. Correct. Jack 61.
Just a second here. Let me get this on here. What the hell is it at? There it is. Talking about that.
That's the one. That's the one.
Yeah.
And that's very, very close to the conveyor, which is where Earl had placed the trees that he got from the yard.
Yep.
And they also, didn't they say that Pinto didn't have a motor in it at all?
It had no motor.
Yeah.
No, it didn't have a motor. No motor, no transmission. So it could be.
Didn't Kathleen say that they tested something and they came back as a red paint, so they're suspecting it from that?
That's what they're suggesting. The color on the blinker light is due to the fact that the car hit the Pinto.
Yeah.
But the state won't give Kathleen's owner the blinker to test it.
Look at the date.
Mm-hmm.
That picture.
How did they take that on the 16th?
Don't know.
They gave the property up on the 12th.
That's right. Don't know. What the cameras got on it though. I didn't. This is straight from the DOJ.
Yep.
Interesting.
Okay.
Well,
maybe that's when they had it. What do you call
process?
it?
No,
Yeah.
no. Let's see here if it gives a date. Let's see if there's any metadata attached. Metadata says November 16th, 2005 at 2:51 p.m.
Okay.
Digital camera.
Yep.
That's interesting.
It is very interesting. All right. Jack 61, shall we do the next slide, please?
Yep. Let me get this off here.
All right. So I think we discussed it that I don't believe that RAV4 was properly hidden at all. I don't believe it was driven down there by Stephen or Brendan. And certainly it did stand out like a sore thumb, right? But if you think that was bad, let's have a look at slide number 6, guys. So in convicting a murderer, they continued it. And they said, okay, well, the number plates were removed from the RAV4. And you could see the proximity of the number plates, where the number plates were found. They were found in a station wagon. The number plates themselves were folded up, which is interesting because Detective O'Neill said, Stephen told him that they normally roll up the number plates when they take it off a vehicle. But I couldn't find that information anywhere where Stephen told him that, right? And the question is, why would Stephen, if Stephen had committed this crime, why would Stephen remove the number plates from the RAV4 yet leave the spare tire cover that says RAV4 Toyota, especially since the investigators or the search party were looking for a blue or dark green RAV4 Toyota that belonged to Teresa Hobart. So what was the purpose of removing the number plates?
Get them close to Stephen.
Get them closer to Stephen? Yeah. Okay. So if you have a look at the picture up above, it's literally down the road, the gravel road from Stephen's property, right? The number plates were not well hidden. They were just thrown in the back of that station wagon. And I know it could be a coincidence, but it was right next to or very close to the end loader that Stephen wanted Teresa to photograph. They were in close proximity.
And they were not found on the first search of those cars.
No, they weren't. That's correct. The number plates, I believe, were found on the 8th.
That makes no sense. And they just
Right.
happened to be in a car with all the windows broken out. You could
Correct.
just toss them in there.
Correct.
Yeah.
And rolled up and rolled up.
And rolled up. Correct.
And rolled
Correct.
up. Yeah.
Correct. And my final question is this. What is Brenda Schuller doing in front of the number plates in the crime lab? What is she doing?
She's pretending like she's going to handle them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's got access, so watch out. Got access.
Right. Well, what do you think, guys? Why did Stephen, if Stephen committed this crime, why would Stephen remove the number plates?
Well, why would he salvage them at all? I mean, that's punk metal. He could have thrown it if he had this gigantic, 1,500-degree fire. He could have melted them.
Well, why didn't he simply put the number plates under the seats of the RAV4?
Yeah, that too. Yeah, I can't answer that one, Doc. It's crush them. Yep.
Oh, why did and why did you just squeeze them in a completely crushed car that was probably only enough room to fit or squeeze that in? You know what I mean? To completely conceal it. But no, he's going to walk past and he's going to fling it in a boot of a motor where the boot's lying wide open. I mean, come on. It's fucking ridiculous.
We got you on camera, Alice. We got you on camera.
Bugger! You stopped me. I'm in bed.
Yep.
I caught you fixing your nose.
That'll be a foul play short. That'll be a foul play short coming up soon.
That'll be on Twitter. So, guys, why? Honest question here. Why would Stephen remove the number plates and throw them literally down the street from his house when he had literally 40 acres to dispose of, or use tin snips to get rid of them? Why did he put them in a car straight down pointing towards his house?
I've tried to work that out, and I can't because, again, Stephen's not the sharpest tool in the shed, but he knows better than that. He's not stupid. He's not that stupid.
Why would anyone do it?
It's for them to be found.
Yeah.
That's the only answer I've got, Doc. I'm sorry, Rhonda, go ahead.
Yep.
No, you're fine.
Just Rhonda.
It's really hard for me to answer your questions because it was, Alice. It definitely was. Because he wouldn't. So it's really hard for me to answer. And I know I know the questions are basically rhetorical. I understand that. But it's even hard to try to come up with a reason, hypothetically, because nobody would to just about any of your questions recently.
Right.
So,
but this is what Convicting a Murderer is saying, that Stephen put the car there, Stephen put the number plates there, And what I'm saying is there was nothing covert about what Stephen did. Everything was out. Imagine if a news reporter just happened to stop by that car, just accidentally, and looked in and found number plates and said, "What the hell are these, Stephen?" Come on.
Yeah,
nothing was hidden.
Cam would ask those questions because they're just trying to plant ideas in people's head, people who are either still questioning the case altogether, or some who have begun to question the case, or some who don't even know the case. They're just trying to plant bullshit.
Remember what Tom Fassbender said in Cam? If someone was going to plant something, don't you think they want it to be found? And the answer is everything got found. Everything got found. So where's
Kelly McAlien is asking, when was the first search through all the vehicles?
Sunday.
The 5th?
The 6th. They opened up all the hoods and they didn't see the number plates then. They found them on the 8th.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. Correct. All right. Any other comments about the number plates? All right. So Jack 61, we're probably not going to be able to do all the slides. Shall we do a couple more?
Yeah, we can do that, Doc, and we can finish up. I can rearrange the open mic tomorrow, and you can finish up. It's fine. We can do episode 6 next week, or whenever. Because I'm going to tell everyone, Cherie and I are expecting some calls and some other material, hopefully this week from KSO. So we're probably going to have at least one extra open mic during the week, maybe 2, depending on how much we get.
Right. Awesome.
So let's just plan to finish episode 5 up tomorrow on the open mic. It works for me. So we can do a couple more. Sure.
Excellent. So let's have
wishful thinking, Jack.
So let's have a look at the next question, right? So one of the things that Tom Fassbender said was about the processing of the RAV. And he said, look, we'll be damned if we did and damned if we didn't. That is, process the RAV in situ. Now, as you know, guys, they put tarps over the RAV4, right? You could see the picture on the top left-hand corner. They put tarps around the RAV4. They protected the RAV4 from the weather and also potentially from prying eyes from above. Now, Tom Fassbender decided to remove the tarps so they could bring the RAV4 to the lab, the crime lab. But as you can see in the bottom left-hand corner, it bucketed down with rain. And as you can see, the RAV4, the entire RAV4 and the hood and other components got wet. So potentially you're losing forensic evidence. So instead of protecting the RAV4, it in actual fact got contaminated with rain. So here's my question to the panel. Why wasn't the RAV4 processed in situ? Now, they had it under tarps. Why not bring in the crime lab, take photographs, bring in a camera, do your swabs, close it up, take it to the crime lab? But you've got all your photographs done in situ. You've got your swabs done in situ. There are no questions. There are no complications. You've processed the inside of the RAV. You can bring in potentially a portable black light, maybe luminol spray, check to see around the RAV, process it there, or maybe even bring it into one of the garages, put it under lock and key, process it there. Why move it in a torrential downpour, potentially contaminating the evidence? Jack 61, what would you have done?
I would have processed it. I would have processed it right there on the scene. Take a video camera, have somebody with a still camera, and just video it all. That way there's no question about what they found immediately, right? Everything would have been right there, and there would have been no question. It's just like the burn pit. Don't document it. That way you can just tell whatever story you want. You can sell that story if you don't document, and they didn't.
Right.
Without knowing the private conversations that they had about why they didn't process it on scene, we're left to speculate. And I've done that. I think we all have many times. And convicting and murder, we're going to get more into it when we get to episode 6, because there's a lot of discussion about the RAV4.
The RAV4.
Right?
Correct.
Yeah. And in episode 5 as well. So
right.
Yeah. I can't say for sure, Doc, why they wouldn't have went ahead, because I'm telling you, certainly I haven't seen thousands of different cases, but virtually in every case that I've ever seen about a missing person and they find their vehicle, they open it on the spot.
Potential clues. Maybe
That's
her
right.
phone was in there.
That's right.
Or a letter.
Damn.
Or a letter.
Right.
Or a letter, or clues.
That's right.
Correct.
As to where to go from here.
Yep.
Investigate.
Exactly.
Don't just leave it sit there with the doors locked, for fuck's sake. And it's there for how many hours? 12 hours it's sitting there.
From the morning
on that property
to the nighttime. Then they took it away.
Once they find it, it's like 12 hours. It's
well,
insane.
I mean, they found it. Let's just say 10:30. I don't think they left until 8:40 is when
8:45. I think
10 hours,
Nick,
whatever.
that
that's a long
Nick
time.
guy, signed him out because he's the one that towed the trailer box. So 10 hours it just sat there, unprocessed.
And I'm with
then
you,
it got
Jack. Every time I've seen a crime they find the vehicle and the person is missing, they always go inside and
absolutely
look for evidence.
That's right.
For a phone, for the keys, for whatever they might find. The purse.
That's right. Yep.
It's crazy.
Now, why?
Yeah.
Sorry, Neverly.
No, I was going to say, they get upset when we say that they were so concerned about the car. What about Teresa?
Exactly.
The only thing, the bizarre thing is this, right? The only thing they checked inside the car to see if they could see Teresa, and that was it, right? It would have taken them, 1 minute max to look under to see if Teresa was there. She clearly wasn't there. So
Right.
hence,
That's a small car. If Teresa were in the back of that car or in the front,
right,
you could have missed her. Yeah.
right. So they go to all the effort of putting the tarps around, and you can see it all beautifully done, tarps around the car. Why not bring in your forensic team, suit up, bring in a camera, bring in a video, check for the presence of violence to give you vital clues? All the investigators were asked one question, and that was, did you see any blood? And everyone said no. But
those tarps were a joke, Doc.
I know,
normally they bring in a little canopy.
Yes.
Generally on crime scenes, they'll put a
That's right.
canopy over evidence.
That's
The
right.
tarps were a joke. That the way they had those rigged, it was just crazy.
correct, 100%. I agree with you 100%. Now,
Sorry
when-
for interrupting you.
No, not at all. When the officers went there, they even had torches. They said, no, I couldn't see any blood at all. They even asked Erdl, did you see any blood? Nope. They asked Pam, Nicole, Tom Fassbender, Remika, several officers who were there. No one saw any evidence of blood. But they knew.
only identified that SD card with had Teresa's name on it.
Yes, correct.
And they told Mike Holbach, the family, that there was no evidence of foul play.
Correct. They saw no evidence of a weapon, a knife, a gun, blood, as in blood spatter, nothing. So hence, what was their apprehension to opening up the RAV4 and process it there? Look around, look inside. If you're well suited and you got gloves, something to cover your hair, why couldn't they go in for a cursory look? They knew that there was human decomposition because Brutus alerted at the back of the RAV4, right? So they knew there was something in that vehicle. They never opened it. They never
I was
opened
just going to say that, even just a cursory look.
Even just a cursory look. Put crime scene tape, take it to one of the garages where it's dry, covered, bring in the lights, process it, done. No questions asked. Do you think by not processing the RAV4 in situ was a mistake? Yes or no? Was it a mistake?
Yes.
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 Interesting.
Yes.
Yeah. Whereas Tom Fassbender goes, nah. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. Well, Tom, when you took the vehicle and put it on the truck, the damn thing had complete water all over it, right? So potential fingerprints, clues like blood were just dissolved away, which is crazy.
You have another issue. I mean, I do, because the RAV allegedly gets to the crime lab at 1:15 a.m.
Yes.
They leave it, and then Gruffy, they come in the next morning, Harrington and whoever else.
Mm-hmm.
Then Harrington gets called at 10:30. He gets called. He's just not there at 10:30. He gets called to come in at 10:30.
Yes.
And I guess he makes his way there sometime by midday. So when he gets there, the RAV4 driver's side door is somehow unlocked, but we don't have a true, real statement about how that happened. We know a locksmith got called in, but the locksmith doesn't give a statement. We're left with this meandering, speculative thing that we have to work through.
Correct. I was asked whether a Slim Jim will work on that car. Yes, it would. I actually found the manual of that model that showed how the use of a Slim Jim worked in that particular model. There's 2 little clips that clip on the plastic of the glass, and you prise it and you drop some type of tool and you click open the car door. There's an actual manual that shows you how to do it on that RAV4. So yes, a Slim Jim would have worked. Correct.
Yeah, but also, Doc, was there no pictures taken of the window on the RAV?
No.
And it looks like there was a Slim Jim used.
Yes, there's a little indentation, but that's after.
That's on the back driver's side. But, to me, they should have documented what they were doing to that RAV, and when they did it, using video and still photo, but they didn't do that.
No. So again, this now opens the door to criticism, because Jack 61, you stated the trip from the salvage yard to the crime lab took a very long period of time. I'm not saying it's nefarious. Could well be, because it was wet on the road. You drive a little bit slower, but it took an extra hour allegedly using Google Maps to go to that place. It would have been far easier that a search warrant. Why not simply put it in one of the garages? This is a salvage yard after all, and process it there. Clean environment, go in, do your swabbing, do your photography, do your video, no questions asked. Because remember, the whole idea was that Erdl, there are photographs with Erdl standing right next to the RAV, right, guys?
Yep.
Which meant the crime lab was right next to the RAV4, but then Erdl never entered into that RAV at the salvage yard.
Yeah, I mean, they could easily pull that over to one of the empty bays at the Avery salvage yard out of the weather and done what they could have done their full treatment right there. No questions asked.
They have a mobile crime lab with all their equipment.
Yeah. That's right.
Correct. So it just seems bizarre that the RAV4 wasn't processed. It could have saved a lot of angst and time by doing it that way. All right, guys. Jack 61, shall we do one or two more?
Yep, sounds good, Doc.
All right. So this was really, really interesting. And that is, how come the crime lab wasn't actually called in to search Stephen's trailer on November the 5th? Why is it that Lenk, Colburn, Remaker, and with the watchdog, so to speak, Tyson, watching what they were doing? And the answer was because Colburn was an evidence tech. So here's the bizarre thing. The question was asked, why did you start at Stephen's trailer? And Fassbender said in cam and also in the trial, is because we received intelligence saying that we should really be searching Stephen's trailer first. Now, Stephen's trailer, according to the dimensions, is only 700 square feet. Those officers were in there for a long period of time on November the 5th collecting evidence.
Yeah,
right?
7:05 to just a little after 10, I think.
Yep, they were there for, I believe, nearly 2.5 hours or something like that. So
Yep.
the question is, why didn't they call the crime lab to go over the property, the trailer, do photography, and collect blood swabs? Why did the MTSO go in there and not the crime lab? Do we have any answers, guys? What are your suggestions?
Well, I mean, I can speculate, but I truly can't answer this one either because it was Remaker, Link, Colburn, and Tyson, right?
Yes.
And Remaker had definitely been in there when Brutus was in there and gave the alert.
Yes, he did. He did.
So, I don't know. Without speculating, I don't know. And I don't want to speculate too much because then that leads off into, some wild conspiracy somebody's going to accuse me of, and that's not the direction I'm going.
Okay.
But it is curious why the crime lab was there and they didn't go back in until 7 o'clock, so they had time to get there and get set up. So what else could they potentially be doing if they were looking at Stephen's trailer? It's a great question.
Okay. Katie. Katie.
Maybe they just didn't want to, create anything to look at that could possibly be perceived as exculpatory in any way down the road.
Interesting.
I don't know.
Any other comments, guys? Why did the MTSO go inside the trailer for hours? Why not call?
You've asked a head scratcher there, Doc. I can't answer that one without speculating. I truly can't answer it.
But
why didn't they find the key on the 5th?
Correct. But remember what Fassbender kept on saying? Oh, it was only a cursory look. So they weren't looking. Well,
that was a full search.
Yeah.
On the 5th.
But hold on. This is what I can't understand, right? When Remaker went in there the very first time, remember what he saw? He saw what appeared to be a red dried substance on the door frame.
That's right.
His antennas are already raised, thinking, shit, this is blood. We've got a missing person here. This is blood. What happens a little while later? They bring in the dog, Brutus. Remaker denied being with the dog. Remember? Yep. Remember what the Deidring, right? It goes, I was in there with Remaker and the other guys. We went through in the trailer with Brutus, with Julie Kramer. And Deidring goes, I did not see the dog alert. And Julie Kramer said, yeah, the dog barked in Stephen's bathroom, laundry area. So if you're Remaker, you're going, wait a minute, I've seen blood. Oh my God, a cadaver dog alerts inside Stephen's trailer. Guys, we got to come back. And they did. They were there for about 2.5 hours and they collected blood, what they appeared to be drops of blood on the ground, on frames. My understanding is that they collected between 10 and 20 swabs.
Oh, at least.
At least. and that was done by these guys. They didn't call the crime lab.
No.
Right? So the question is, you've now got Colburn with a camera taking pictures. You've got the entire crime lab team twiddling their thumbs. Why? Because it was raining. So they could do nothing. Why didn't they call Erdl to come in with his team, his professional photographer, and go over the trailer? But here's what I can't understand. You're looking for Teresa Horbach. You go in, you check the entire trailer. You don't find Teresa Horbach. Then you look for signs of violence. Clearly, they found no signs of violence. Otherwise, it would have shut the place down, right? They obviously saw no pools of blood. They didn't. In fact, they would have seen the 2 rifles sitting above the bed. They never even collected the rifles, right, guys? They left it. They left it. They would have.
Remiker said there was nothing there. The guy is innocent, or something to that matter.
That Stephen wasn't involved. So the question is, why did we keep on having repeat, I think 7 or 8 searches of the same property when you went in there and you go, there's no sign of Teresa here?
So that's talked about at least a little bit in episode 6.
Yep.
Because I can't remember, I think it was Dave. There was, I think, 7 searches, but he says that everything after the 5th was for a specific thing. That's what they're saying. So why didn't they find the key on the 5th?
Right, but that's right. But your whole purpose is to go in there and say, is the victim here? Is there any sign of a struggle? Any signs of violence? Is there something that's right out of not right in it? No, nothing.
So I think that was done on the 4th with Remiker.
Yeah, he went in on the 4th.
That was the 4th.
Yeah. Yes, that's right.
The 5th was a full search.
That was
had
for 2.5 hours.
3 men for 2.5 hours.
Yes.
How many man hours is that in 700 square feet?
A lot.
A lot.
Well, I mean, typically speaking, as a search warrant goes, as far as I'm been familiar with, you get one shot, and without something
everywhere,
and without something more concrete, you're not allowed to go back in, because then it becomes a fishing expedition, and that's why judges typically don't allow it.
Well, they did see certain things that I believe, didn't they have to get other search warrants for, like the guns and the computer and the specific things they went back for?
They could have taken that the first time if there was some
big list,
a question.
A big list that they could have searched for, all involving potential violence against Teresa Horbach.
Yeah.
And Remiker listed the whole lot. It's like, okay, anything goes here. And it was Kratz that told him to go back and get the weapons. Why?
Get the computer.
And then the computer. Then the porn collection. The reason why Kratz wanted him to get the gun is so they could charge Stephen with felon in possession and take him off and put him in prison. Yeah. That's why, to get him to shut up and not talk to the press. So the question is this. You have 3 officers plus a babysitter in a small place. These are trained police officers. In 2.5 hours, are you trying to tell me they can't find anything of nefarious activity in a small 700 square feet trailer? Come on, guys.
Right. Talking about the key, oh my God, anybody that watches this episode 6 and talking about the key and the way that they were, roughly putting these books back into this record cabinet, that doesn't happen.
And what about... Sorry, what about what Dave said later on? Oh, what Stephen said to Teresa when he came to see, goes, one day you'll be on the wall. What was the wall?
Oh my God.
Photographs of all these women in their phone. If those officers went in there and saw a wall with all these pictures of females with what do you think they would have done?
Well, they would have photographed it and collected it immediately.
Right?
Yeah.
Call Fassbender, call Wiegert, call Pagel, get in here quick. Boom.
Front page news right there. That's a parade.
But there was no.
I really think that was a different client. Teresa was telling her friend about.
Yeah, very likely. Very likely. All right, guys, do we have any? Oh, and listen to this. This made me laugh. On cam, they said, well, the reason why we started at Stephen's trailer is because of his changing narrative. Remember the changing? Remember see how those crosses? You've got the crosses on those picture. Oh, Stephen said, nah, she didn't show up. Oh, yeah, she only was here for a minute. Or, I then paid her. And so his story got a little bit more advanced. So because of the so-called changing statements, Stephen naturally was a person of interest. But we discussed the reason why she said she's never showed up was because he wanted Teresa to come back to photograph the end loader. And then Susan said, yeah, but if you look at statement by Earl, Robert Fabian, they probably got the day wrong too, right?
That's in episode 6 too. Just so everybody knows, they talk about it at length. So this is a great point of what Susan was talking about. Go ahead, Doug.
Yep, awesome. So look, Jack,
changing story. It's just a bunch of changing stories, and what does that point to?
Yep, correct. So he now becomes suspect number one. But my point is this: you've got all these officers who are trained. What have they got? They've got potential specks of blood. They've got no idea who that belongs to. That's fair enough. I've got a cadaver dog that comes in, does an alert, doesn't do an alert in the master bedroom. Now, of course, they don't know anything about Brendan Dassey. But what have you got at that point? You don't have a murder weapon. You don't have a sign of struggle. You got no idea. You've got an alert by a canine dog that detects human decomposition. Could be blood, could be anything. So these guys are already tweaking. We found some blood. So the question is it Stephen's blood? Is it the victim's blood? They got no idea. Why not call in the crime lab? Shut the place down. Bring in some luminol. Check it. Nothing. Guys, any comments?
No, I think that pretty well covers it. I mean, the other side of it. Yeah, I mean, I think we've rebutted it as well as we can. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Look, I reckon the last slide for today. Yep. I reckon the last slide for today. Let's have a look at number 9, which is essentially exactly the same thing. Cam kept on going, right? And so here's the crux of the question. Why did the investigators keep on sending the officers into Stephen Avery's trailer? What was their aim?
They couldn't find anything. They couldn't find anything.
They kept on collecting items of evidence. And see that picture on the right-hand side, right up the top? The guns. They photographed the guns.
Yep.
They never took them. They never took the weapons. Not
Why
on
the
that
hell?
occasion.
Why the hell is that picture of Lori there? Is
I
what
got
I
no
want to
idea.
know.
I got no idea.
A man has nudes of his ex-wife.
Correct.
That's part of evidence. I mean, come on.
Correct. Yep. They collected that. They collected the leg irons and all sorts of stuff. And they obviously saw Stephen's pornographic magazines. But what the interesting thing is the chain. See the money on the cabinet?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And that was actually quite embarrassing for Colburn because he goes, I can't understand how come none of that money chain fell off the ground when I shook the cabinet. Uh-oh.
And look another at one with changing stories.
Yes.
Shame on Cam. Sorry. Shame on Cam for using that picture of Lori. That's
I agree.
Of course. That was
terrible.
horrible.
It's terrible.
Poor Lori. Good God.
If you take a look at the picture, if you take a look at the picture of the gun above Stephen's bed,
Yes.
look at what's on it. There's a belt, there's a hanger, there's this and that. Does that seem like it was used recently?
No.
Yeah.
No. They had no suspicion. In fact, at that stage, they had no idea what had happened to Teresa Halbach, right? None.
Maybe they were also confused for being sent there by their superior over and over. You know what I mean?
Interesting.
I'm going to stick by Remiker. At that time, he was a good boy.
He was a good boy.
Yeah. No, he was honest.
Yep. Yeah, I think he had no idea. But again, you've got this common theme. When is enough enough? How many times do you send in a search team for hours and hours and hours? And my understanding, I think that 7 or 8 searches, and you must also include the one on the 4th, which was only a casual search. How many times is enough?
Well, it becomes, like I said, it becomes a fishing app.
You got to find a key.
It becomes a fishing trip. That's what has happened in, in other cases, not this case. Other cases in the past where cops were allowed to keep going back, and they're like, "Oh, look what we found."
Yeah. Now, I do believe that some of those searches were targeted to get the computer, to get the guns. I don't think they searched other stuff while they were in there. I think they just went in there to get those certain items.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't disagree.
But the first one
I do believe on the 5th, they should, if that key were there, they would have found it.
Yeah. Yes. I agree.
They went through that cabinet. They knew there was porn in there, right?
Yes.
They went through
that.
They
had to go back.
They went back to get it. They knew it was in there. They took everything out of that cabinet. They looked inside. They looked behind it. They looked in the dresser, in the desk. They went through the desk.
Under the bed. They did.
Under the bed.
Yep.
Yeah.
Coburn even said, now, here's the thing, right? These are trained police officers. Not one of them mentioned, looks like Stephen has rearranged this room, because they would have checked the carpet, the divots on the carpet.
Well, I think they would have just seen them right away, Doc. I don't necessarily think they would have been checking, but I think they would have noticed it.
They would have noticed something.
I think Stephen did change the room around.
Yeah,
I just don't know when.
That's exactly
right. Know when.
That's exactly right. But their narrative eventually was that after he murdered Teresa Halbach on October the 31st, he then changed his entire room, including moving all the dust, to when the officers came in on the 5th. That's how. So in other words, he completely changed his entire orientation of his room from the 31st to November the 5th.
I think with the carpet divots, I'm not so sure about that. I think the bed was where the dresser used to be. I'm not so sure you would see something like that.
No, the
carpet.
The bed was meant to be underneath the window. Underneath the window.
And the dresser was
on the other side, because we've got the picture drawn by Brendan Dassey. When he drew that picture, Fassbender and Wiegert looked at each other going, did Stephen change the bedroom after he killed Teresa Halbach? And Brendan goes, yeah, right? Because he couldn't explain it. Because when he drew the bedroom, he drew it completely everything was in the wrong orientation.
Right, from the last time he probably had seen it, which had probably been a while.
Which meant that you would have had divots on the carpet because you had heavy furniture moved.
If he had used that carpet cleaner in there, that could have taken the divots out. I don't know.
I don't know. Let's shorten out carpet. I don't know. Maybe.
Would it have even showed divots? I don't know.
I think it definitely would have showed divots, especially the bed, because it's pretty heavy. The dresser, it's pretty heavy.
It's heavy.
He had all kinds of shit on that
There was a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff.
I don't know how deep the divots would have been, but I mean, I've had short nap
Would have
carpet.
been evidence.
I think you definitely would have seen it, unless it had been a while. Now, if it had been a while, sure, the carpet would have relaxed and came back up.
Come out. Yeah.
But nothing drew their suspicion. Put it that way. Nothing drew their suspicion immediately, and they were in there for hours. That's a small room. That's a small room. All right. Well, look, guys, I reckon we'll leave it there. Jack 61, are you happy if I finish tomorrow? I've got five more. I've got 4 more.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, dog. No problem at all.
6.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it all melds in quite nicely. But, you know, I think, you know, we've done over 3 hours. I think we've covered it really judiciously. We're very, very fair, I think, the way we've... And I thought the format worked quite nicely, having the picture there, because we can see what the main elements that they were talking about. What did you think, guys? That seemed to work out okay without playing the clip?
That's right.
Yep.
I think it worked really well, actually.
Yep. No worries about any CR violations or any BS and all that kind of stuff. So
Correct. Awesome. Well, look, guys, again, thank you so much. We covered quite a lot, and thank you so much for coming in. I don't even know how many people we had in chat, because I'm not checking the chat at the moment. But again,
I think we had 60 or 70, something like that. I don't. Had a nice crowd.
Nice. Awesome. All right, guys. Well, let's quickly go around the table. Tell us how things are coming along and stuff like that. Jack 61.
Yeah, doing very well. As I said earlier, Cherie and I have been granted a couple of open records requests. I requested Jody's jail calls. I've been trying to get them for, well, a long time. This is specifically, I didn't get everything I wanted. They say they don't have a certain amount. That's not going to stop me. I'm going to continue to try to get them, but at least from January the 11th, 2006 through February 18th, 2006. And this is a section that happens prior to that last batch that I got from Manitowoc. Now, Manitowoc said they didn't have these calls. I don't know how they couldn't have them, because they originated at Manitowoc jail. Somebody had to give them to Wiegert. They had to record them at Manitowoc and give them to Wiegert, because Wiegert gave them to Fassbender to make a copy.
Yes.
So I don't know how that worked, but nonetheless, I don't know how many calls are involved. I would imagine it's quite a few. So once we get those, we'll schedule an open mic and we'll listen to them together. We also have some other things that if Cherie wants to talk about, can list those off. Don't know what all we're going to get. We've been fooled before about things that we've requested, and it's like, oh, well, shit, we've already got that, and it's just been relabeled as something else. So anyway.
I'd like to talk about them when they're to be talked about, please.
Okay. Well, there is a cassette recording from March 1st, 2006, the day that Brendan was taken in and arrested. There is a cassette that I don't know what's on it. I don't have a clue. It could be nothing for all I know, but all I know is that we don't have it. And I'm very curious about it, and I've been trying to get this cassette since last July. And then they denied me. Wiegert, came up with that big horseshit story last fall before he left office that the DCI wasn't converting cassettes to digital format. And then he denied my request, and he refused to talk to me about it. So I changed tact under advice from someone, and I asked Cherie to request it, and she did under her legal document. And we requested some other things. The November 4th MTS, this is from Calumet County. She requested the November 4th, 2005 radio traffic dispatch calls. Allegedly, we're getting them, but we'll see. I can't remember what else is on that list. A couple other things, too. So, do you remember, Cherie, exactly what's on that list?
There was something about Teresa's phone calls or something. I can't remember.
Miranda and Kay. Yeah, phone records. Teresa Halbach. Yeah. Yeah. So anyway,
Interesting.
if whatever we get, we're going to share. Obviously, if this is cassette of Brendan is anything that we think that can help him in his case, it's going to Now Ryder and Drizzen, and we won't share it until we're given approval to do so. If it's nothing, we'll share that too.
Yep.
We'll let you know what we get and when we get it. Thanks everyone for coming. Remember to do as Alice says, the YouTube things. Like, share, subscribe, and thanks everyone.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jack61. Just Rhonda, what about yourself?
Thank you, Doc, and thanks to everybody on the panel and for all your great comments and contribution. I learned something from all of you guys every time we do one of these, so thank you. And to everybody in the chat for all the questions and comments as well. I think we had a very successful live on Thursday night over on my channel.
Awesome.
It seems like it was received very well. My chat was more interactive than I think that I've ever seen it, except for the very first night I went live. And so I just decided to kind of take a new approach, or revise or revamp a new approach by starting at the very beginning of the case of Daniel's case, because it seems like over the last month or so, we've had people from foul play who are coming and listening, but not really sure what the case is about. And then just other people who apparently have been looking for something about Daniel's case and just kind of stumbled onto the channel. So I thought this is the time to kind of start over. So we did that on Thursday and it went really, really well.
Fantastic.
And so, so we're geared up to get started on Thursday with the beginning of the first accuser case. So
it was, let me just say, Rhonda, it was a really great overview of the entire case and the timeline. So if you are interested in Daniel's case at all, it will give you an overview of everything. So it's a good place to start, actually. That was Thursday, right?
Yes.
So that would have been the 7th?
7th, I think. Yeah, the 7th.
Yeah, the 7th. So yeah, I recommend it. It was it really we covered, all the basics in that case. So yeah.
We've struggled with how to present Daniel's case because it's so complicated.
It's complex.
But I guess we hit on the right formula this time. So
awesome.
I think so. And we have a lot more knowledge, or I have a lot more knowledge for sure. And Kay, of course, is a huge contributor to this and to Daniel's case. And then I've got Cherie, Jack, and Alice and Susan who come on just about every week with me, and everybody contributing to the commentary of the case is especially helpful. So anyway, we're going to be starting. If you missed last week's, I don't know if I know that Catnet dropped a link in the channel. Is that I think that's for last week's episode. So if you haven't looked at that yet, go check it out, because I think it's really, really well done. And I'm not usually very complimentary of myself for sure. But I feel really proud of what we did on Thursday. I think it was done really well. So check it out. Come back on Thursday, every Thursday at 5 p.m. Central on my channel. And, somebody said earlier that if we didn't have the Stephen and Brendan's case, that we could, we could be focusing on Daniel's case, but we'll never get out of Stephen and Brendan's case because the state is never going to let us out of this case. So, but that doesn't mean that, those who have an extra, couple of hours a week can't come over and, contribute to supporting Daniel as well. So thank you, everybody. And look forward to tomorrow.
Thank you so much, Just Rhonda. Awesome. And next we have our John Recall. How about yourself?
Doing well. That was once again a great show, or a great presentation. I don't like to call it a show, but very interesting. Working with Rhonda and Kay and Jack and Susan on Daniel's case, and then on Ashley Gar's case. She has Amy has her regular show on Monday nights at 6 Central. So please check out both. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Next we have Susan. Susan, how about yourself?
Well, we got through one more doc. I will be so glad to get this damn cam.
Yep, me too.
Get on with it. Yeah.
Yep.
So we're closer and closer. Yeah. What have we got? One more episode? Is that it?
1.5 left and we're done.
1.5. Yay.
Yeah.
Okay. Everybody have a great night, day, wherever you are. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, Susan. And next we have Katie.
Yeah, it was a good show tonight. You know, I've been thinking about, I think Neverly mentioned that, you know, all of this has kind of put a cloud over foul play, but, you know, I don't really view it that way at all from my perspective. I mean, foul play is what it is. They do what they do. We do what we do. And all the information is out there and available. I mean, I don't know. I guess if personalities get sideways or whatever, then people are throwing stuff around. But I'm really proud of what foul play does. And I don't view it as a cloud at all. So keep it up, guys.
Thank you so much.
Here, here. I agree with that.
Thank you. Thank you, Katie.
Thank you so much.
Or I don't know why. I don't understand it. Yeah, like she says, we do what we do. We support justice. Period.
Correct. And the thing is, we've been doing the same type of stuff, our presentations, our methodology for years, and no one said a thing. As soon as Cam came along, we got put in the firing line, which is very, very interesting because we've been talking about the same stuff. Like this episode here, we've covered everything many, many times before.
Many times.
No one said a damn thing. All of a sudden, it's blowing up everywhere. Amazing. All because of Cam.
I'm going to elaborate, Katie, on what I said when it comes to my turn.
It's your turn, Everly.
It is? Okay.
Yep.
Well, what I meant about the cloud over foul play, it was in regards to the last 2 episodes or 2 podcasts that we did. Yeah, because it was really inflammatory, as Dr. Silkman would say, about Stephen's past, what Cam said, what we said, you know, and it seems like, oh, foul play is defending monster and blah, blah, blah. That's what I meant. However, I think that everybody on the panel agrees that we are super proud of the work that we're doing. I am a very proud member of Foul Play. I have been and will be here for a long time. So isn't it funny how somebody's idea and intention to put us out actually brought us more support, more love, more understanding, more supporters. And I just love it. Which is to say, if I could say it humbly, that foul play is sticking to their gun. We're talking with integrity over here because why? We provide documents, calls, little clips, and we involve everybody in the chat, asking for your opinion. So we're not shoving information down your throat, threatening that if you don't agree with us, we're going to kick you or something like that.
And we share and we share everything.
Absolutely. And who does the opposite? It's not us. So I don't want to answer that rhetorical question. You know what I mean? So I couldn't be prouder. And I just think that it's really cool that we have turned the tables and that we're doing better than ever.
Yeah. Yep. Really good point. Thank you so much, Neville.
You're welcome.
The important thing is that we have a huge body of work behind us, available for free on YouTube, and also our extensive document library on our webpage. Plus, through the good hard work of a lot of people, we have a huge amount of stuff. No paywall, all free. Come along, read it, learn it, digest it, do a podcast if you want to. That's it. We're not hiding anything. We're providing our opinions. We value your opinions. If you believe that the boys are guilty, that's fine. But we're here to give our opinions and our thoughts, our processes. We're not hiding nothing. We show up every week, sometimes twice, 3 times a week. We discuss it. We have an audience, a live audience. We do our podcasts, which has been awesome. And we have a huge body of work behind us over many, many years, right? And collectively, as a team, as a panel, we have a huge amount of experience, and it shows, right? We may not know the answer to something, but within 1 or 2 minutes, we'll find you the document. Don't worry about that. So that's been awesome in that regard. But correct. Cam, I think, put us in a very bad spotlight. But I think we've come through the other end unscathed and with more supporters than ever, which has been awesome. No, it's not about clicks and supports and stuff like that, but it's had the opposite effect. More people have come on board, asked questions. They've now gone to Rhonda's channel. They've now gone to Alice's channel, which is awesome, right? So the more people that come along, ask questions, learn about law enforcement, the better in that regard. All right.
And make your own decisions, guys.
Correct.
Read it, look at it, listen to it, make your own decisions. We're not guiding you one way or the other. Do it yourself. Come to your own conclusions.
100%.
Sorry, Alice is next.
And our final on the list is Alice. Alice, how are you coming along?
Yeah, doing great, Doc. Brilliant podcast. The way you did it with the screenshots and things like that, I think is going to be the way forward, because there didn't seem to be any interruptions tonight. So that was a good idea. As always, looking forward to what we've got tonight. And like Susan says, I'll be happy when this is over and done with, and we can get back to what we were doing, which was going through John Farrak's book.
He's got a new edition.
Got a new edition now.
A new edition. I think it's 63 pages or something like that of new edition to his book. So I'm curious to know what that is, and can't wait until we actually get to that bit to discuss that bit as well. So thanks for everything. Thanks for everything that you do, Doc, Jack, Susan, Rhonda, everybody. Like we say, there's a lot of people that works with foul play. There's a lot of stuff that goes on in the background that people don't know about. So we appreciate you all. And like I always say before we sign off in every chat, in the chat, you know, we do this for yous to get used the information, to get used the correct information. This is why we do this. We would not be here if it wasn't for you people in the live chat who come in week on week, every week. I mean, some of yous, I see the same names every week. Sometimes normal life takes over and some can't get in, but you recognize the names that come in and things like that. And there's always, like I like to call yous, the usual suspects that come back every week, on time every week, you know. And that it's you that we do it for, and yous ask us questions, and that's what we love. We love asking these questions, yous asking us questions, I should say, so that we can give you the information. But like we say, don't just take our word for it. Go to the website. Everything that we show you, everything that we can prove is there on the Foul Play website. And I know our super mod cat has been putting the links in that in.
Awesome.
So please go check it out. Subscribe, like, everything like that. Share if you like what we do. Everything like that. And what about yourself, Doc? How have you been?
Yeah, been really good. Looking after my health, spending all my time on Twitter and X and stuff like that, and having some interesting conversations and learning all the time. I got John Farrak's new book, and I can't wait. I think I'll probably get together with Neville and we'll put something together. We'll go over the new stuff, probably read it. And I think that'll be very, very interesting. People want to hear about it. Good, bad, or otherwise, we'll cover it. And I think that's important. But like everybody, I'm looking forward to seeing the end of Cam. I think our rebuttals have been very, very powerful. They've been well received. We're getting, on average, around about 1,000 views. And for us, we're only a small channel. That's pretty good, considering all things considered. But all of us are looking forward to see the back of Cam. We'll probably have to wait for Cam 2. But, yeah, we'll be there. We'll be there. But apart from that, no, it's been fantastic. Thank you so much.
One more thing, if I can say.
Mm-hmm.
Due to that clout that I mentioned over how we are defending Stephen and all that bullshit, which of course it's not true. And what we pointed out on numerous occasions, what MAM was all about and how people, whether they chose or they just missed the freaking point of MAM. Travis Williams, our wonderful attorney that we have a privilege to pick his brains when he's in chat or in Discord, this is what he said, and I'm going to read it out. He said, MAM wasn't about showing that Stephen and or Brendan were innocent or not guilty. It was about exploring the shortcomings of the justice system. But it was also revealed reasonable doubt to most and sparked a desire in many to dig.
Correct.
Boom. There
right.
you go.
Correct.
It's not about freaking Stephen or Brendan. It's not even about if they're innocent or guilty. This is what MAM.
It's about the process.
Exactly, the process. And
Correct.
this was their mission. So there
Correct.
you go.
100% agree.
Thank you. Thank
Well,
you,
look, guys,
Travis.
Thank you so much. Well, look, guys, we'll all be back tomorrow to continue to finish off this episode. And then I'm sure Jack 61 will start episode 6 and we'll take it from there. Thank you so much, guys. Much appreciated. We'll see you again tomorrow.
And this has been a Foul Play production.